G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Marky, back at it again with another episode of r/Am I the A-Hole. Now if you love this one like I love you, be sure to smash that like button and tell me what you think about it. Who is the a-hole in this situation? Anyway guys, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Posted by user Flatfoot Idiot, titled, Am I the a-hole? I cut somebody's water off as they were wasting it. 30 years ago, my grandfather dug a well. It supplies our home and has a pump to supply water to a mini water tower thing to give our homes water pressure. Another person built a house nearby and there was an agreement for them to plumb into our fresh water supply for limited domestic use. Cooking, cleaning, toilets, etc. This agreement has stood for 10 years without any problems. So, what's been going wrong? The house next door was sold. It's now starting to get hot, so the neighbor next door has been filling a swimming pool. I don't see a problem with this. What I do see a problem with is they fill the pool and drain it every single day. Based on my calculations, they're wasting close to 400,000 liters of water every single day. When I told them they can't waste water like this, they told me to go screw myself because the water is free and nobody owns it. So, I gave them a warning showing them that the water supply belonged to us and it wasn't free at all. I was told to F off again. I watched as they filled their pool again and drained it again. I simply turned off their valve supplying their home, which is on our land. They now have no water whatsoever as they tried to fill their pool again this morning. They're now complaining and whining about not having any water. I told them they can get a tanker to come and fill their pool and supply them. Am I the a-hole about this? Not the a-hole, morally, but you need legal advice. Not the a-hole. What the heck is the point of filling and emptying the pool? Is this some pool maintenance strategy I'm not aware of? No, I have a pool. It's time consuming and downright stupid. My same thoughts, not the a-hole. I hate draining my pool. And what's the point of doing it when you have fresh water in it, and you're going to use it the next day? That's just a waste of water. Pools are a lot of maintenance, and they may not want to deal with it, even though draining and filling every day is probably more work. Could also be that their filtration system isn't working, or maybe it's so hot that they want the water to remain cool and not heat up over multiple days. Not defending anyone for this, for the record, this is incredibly stupid and wasteful. The only thing I can think of is that they're too lazy to properly maintain the water. If they fill it fresh and drain it every day, they might see it as a workaround to chlorinating and proper maintenance. I'd maybe amend that first sentence slightly to too stupid rather than too lazy. There's no way properly maintaining a pool is more work or time intensive than refilling and draining it every single day. Most of the articles I can find online suggest pool maintenance is a weekly endeavor. Not the a-hole. That is an absolutely ludicrous waste of water. Yeah, like who does this? Then they told the person supplying the water to piss off? I would have done the same thing, not the arsehole. Posted by user FirmShare3, titled, Am I the a-hole for buying my 5th property rather than helping out my siblings? For context, even when I, 44 male, was a child, I was incredibly into owning property and designing houses. I work as an architect and am doing quite well for myself. Bought my first duplex here in Germany a long time ago, where I rent out both parts. Then I own 2 houses in Italy and 1 in Spain. 2 of them are getting rented out as holiday homes, while the last one I use for vacations and rent out a room to a friend of mine. So I have a lot of passive income at the moment, but only after a lot of time and money investments and refurbishing of these houses. I rent in New York City at the moment, as my job has made me move here temporarily. My brother, 48 male, does an apartment. He has a family with 2 kids, while my wife and I are childless. They are currently looking to purchase a house that fits all of them nicely. While they have found their dream house, it's out of budget for them. Meanwhile, my wife and I are about to buy our 5th house, this time in France. It's going to be one of our largest purchases yet, significantly larger than anything else we have done. It's a great deal on the property, however, and ideally what my wife and I want to retire in. When having a family FaceTime with my siblings and parents, I brought it up. Initially, very happy for me, My brother mentioned how he needs a larger home for his family and how I should give up on this opportunity to give him money for his house and spend the rest on refurbishing their new home. I just laughed and said flat out no. Edit, thought this was a joke. This was apparently the wrong move. My entire family turns against me and starts berating me. After 10 minutes of them taking turns telling me to buy my brother a house, I said I'd think about it and left. I am a bit of a pushover, so after talking to my wife, we agreed we could wait and buy their house and rent it out to them at no profit. Apparently, this was insulting to him, having his younger brother be his landlord, and my parents said I should just outright give him the money we have been saving. I told him to pee off and started moving forward with the paperwork on our house in France. After talking to my friends, they said I should put family first, and it's not like we are struggling for money. Now I am confused. Am I the a-hole? Edit. This edit is super late, but I just want to clarify my brother does have money for a 4-bedroom house. He isn't broke, just not enough money for his dream house. The dream house is approximately double as expensive. Not the a-hole. First off, I believe when there's an expectation of gratitude to the point of getting upset at not receiving it, it becomes greed. Plain old selfish greed. It's admirable you decided to turn the biggest gain in your home-owning career thus far into a gift for your family, with a very reasonable landlord agreement. They are being ridiculously entitled for just assuming their better-off relatives are obligated to give them a house for free. Edits. And I can't believe the irony behind them feeling insulted by having family be a landlord, but don't think it's insulting to demand a large amount of money from family just because they're more financially successful. Thank you for your comment. There are a couple of comments here I'd like to respond to, but yours seems best to me. It's a bit of an upsetting situation for me actually. They've used my holiday homes before free of charge, and I have college funds for his children and my sister's child. I bought his family an SUV when his second child was born. I think we are reaching the point where he thinks I'm more of a bank than a brother. Yeah, you're a bank to him, not a brother. He's being greedy. If he was really desperate for a home, he would have took your offer. Plus, you have money set aside for his children and your sister's child. You bought him an SUV. Clearly, he's using you. This may sound harsh, but I believe you should cut him off permanently. If other family members act like you're the bad guy, cut them off too. You didn't mention how his kids act towards you, but if they're anything like Dad, just cut them out. You sound like a generous person. You don't need that from them. Sometimes family isn't really family when you share the same DNA. I learned that the hard way, and had to completely cut family out of my life. Sounds like you made wise decisions with money. It's not your fault that they don't know how to manage theirs. Good luck to you, enjoy that house in France. You gave them a very generous offer. If he was desperate, he'd have been grateful and jumped at it. I can understand a large family struggling in a small apartment, but anyone struggling would have thanked you for your offer. It just shows he's not desperate and just wants money and luxury handed to him. I'm sorry that your family is just seeing your money. Not the a-hole at all. For what it's worth, I'm your brother in my life. I have 2 kids in an apartment and just can't afford to purchase what we need right now. My sister-in-law just bought her 3rd home, and I'll admit there's always twinges of jealousy and the fleeting thought that it'd be nice if she'd help us out. But that's just me being a brat. Obviously I'm not entitled to someone else's money. I can sense jealousy from my brother at times too. Given your personal position, do you have any ideas of how I can adjust something like that without becoming a bank account for him? I also have a sibling who makes substantially more than I do. I do okay, but they clearly have more. There are certainly times when I'm jealous of them. For example, her getting to stay home with her children, but me realizing that's not financially an option for us. What is nice is that they will occasionally cover expenses for things as a gift for me. If I come down to visit, they will likely pay for dinners, or if we go shopping, they may pay for whatever I'm buying. I think the key is that they are small gestures and done randomly. I certainly don't expect or ask for things, they just offer. However, it sounds like in your case they are expecting large amounts and unwilling to compromise. In your case, I think you're justified in totally backing off and not giving anything. While you are still not the a-hole, I think the timing of your announcement has more to do with this. I think everyone agrees that in a perfect world, everyone is happy for everyone else, but it's not perfect. Instead, it's very predictable. It was very easy to see where this was going to go as soon as you posted that you announced that you were going to buy a 5th house while your brother was struggling to buy his first. Your family doesn't have to know all your business. While it's understandable that you want to share the news of your good fortune with your family, it will never be fully well received unless you're willing to actually share your good fortune. Next time, wait until closing so you can honestly tell them your money is all tied up closing costs. Posted by user Private Buckeye, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister and brother-in-law sleep in my room instead of the living room? My sister, brother-in-law, and their son moved in with me due to financial issues. They have been here for around a month now. I only have a 2-bedroom place though, so my sister and brother-in-law have been bunking down in our living room and their son is staying in my son's room. They've asked if we could change the sleeping arrangements so they, sister and brother-in-law, get one of the bedrooms and the boys stay in the living room. She said she and her husband were having problems because they never have any privacy for just the two of them. I said no to that because my son, who is autistic, needs to keep his sleeping arrangements and space the same, otherwise he will have a meltdown, and I'll have a hard time getting him to bed. My sister understood that, and then asked if I could stay in the living room then, instead of the couple who could share a bed. And yeah, from a neutral point of view it makes more sense, but come on, this is my home. I want to keep my private area to myself in my home. It's already driving me crazy having them here all the time. It's only going to be worse if I don't have some place to retreat to. I also don't want to have to sleep on a couch or air mattress in my home. I want to sleep in my bed where I don't wake up with a backache. Also, let's be real. I don't want my sister having sex in my bed. If I had a guest room, I wouldn't care. But them being in my own personal bed just makes me uncomfortable. Like, I totally get that not having privacy and not being able to have sex sucks for them, but I don't think that should affect me. So I told her no to that too, and now my sister and brother-in-law are basically giving me the silent treatment. They're also both getting snippy with each other and arguing in hushed tones. Wait, she asked if she could have your son's bed so they could do it whenever they want? That's just wrong. She asked if they could have the room for privacy and time alone, but to me, that sounds like they want to have sex. That's exactly what they wanted. Info. Is your sister-in-law paying any rent? They pay for utilities and groceries. Let them stay on the couch. You're in the right, and the fact that they want privacy to have sex in your bed is very disturbing. Not the a-hole, but you should make sure you're within your rental rights to have that many people living in your apartment. If it's not allowed in your lease, and you get found out, they can rightfully evict you. So now you and your child have nowhere else to live. Sis and brother-in-law need to stop worrying about sex and start worrying about having their own place to live. I'm not renting, I own the place. Oops, my bad, apologies for assuming. I'm not sure they're being the a-hole, because so far it seems they've respected your answer. Sure, it's a little weird to ask that, but generally, I'm okay with people asking, so long as they accept the answer. But their concerns are real, so maybe you could try to help them out by taking the kids out every so often and letting them have some time to themselves. Not that you're obligated, but it would be a really sweet thing to do, like, have that little, hey, I'm taking the kids for a movie, have fun, wink wink. Just a thought. As of right now, not the a-hole. Not exactly anywhere I can take them. Yeah, let's take the kids out during the pandemic, that sounds like a good idea. Posted by user Part Yogurt Closet 7, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not telling my wife I had a vasectomy? I've been married to my wife for 2 years now, and she's always wanted to have a child with me. She mentions it often. I've even been trying to have one with her. The problem is that I've had a vasectomy and she doesn't know. My ex-wife came over and dropped off our 3 kids, 9, 5, and 4, and she's pregnant by her now husband. Well, her and my wife were talking about her new baby and if she knew the gender. Now, my ex knows that I've been fixed, as I did so after our youngest was born. Well, my wife says, I can't wait to be pregnant. We've been trying to have a baby with no luck, but it will happen when God allows it. My ex just smiled, and then she looked at me, and I knew what she was thinking with the look she gave me. Later, she texted me and told me I needed to tell my wife the truth and that she had baby fever, and it was cruel to give her false hopes, and pretty much called me an a-hole. So, am I the a-hole? I know it's a little dishonest, but it would break my wife's heart to know the truth. I've even been quote-unquote trying to have one with her. And that's why you're the a-hole. OP, you're the a-hole, this is exactly why. So what? Every month your wife tracks her ovulation, you two have sex multiple times during the fertile window, and then you comfort her with maybe next month, when she gets her period. With every passing month she doesn't get pregnant, you keep her hopes and dreams alive with lies? What type of selfish a-hole are you? What are you going to do when, after a year of trying, she goes to a specialist to see why she hasn't conceived? Are you going to refuse to go with her? Tell her the truth and let her choose the life and partner she wants. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone else, but she deserves to make an informed choice. He'll probably insist it must be her since he has 3 bio kids already. It's definitely what he's been doing. OP is the crappiest person I've seen on this subreddit in a while, and that's saying something. Has to be a troll, I'm thinking. And if this bloody pandemic's been anything to go by, you have a lot more faith in humanity than I do. You're the a-hole if you're not a troll. You sound like a sociopath trying to pretend you have emotions about this. Who the hell lies about being able to have children with someone they're married to and actively trying to have kids with for 2 fudging years? I know someone who contemplated getting a vasectomy and not telling his wife after they were already married and knowing that she desperately wanted a baby. And yes, he is a sociopath. Yes, this. He's only worried about upsetting her because it will upset his reality. I hope it's fake, it's so gross. Look, I'm gonna go with here, Chief. This sounds fake to me, and if it isn't fake, Jesus Christ. Oh, I hope he gets clapped for that. That is just a miserable thing to do to someone. That's probably one of the worst things you can do without hurting someone, but, you know, like physically, but you probably are hurting them physically. Jesus, I'm twisting my own words here. OP sucks. I hate OP. Posted by user someone someplace. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling someone to stop jogging with their French bulldog? As you know, French bulldogs have breathing issues due to their deformed noses. I saw a girl jogging with her French bulldog. I told my wife I wanted to say something, but she said not to, so I didn't. A few days later, I saw the same girl and dog around my neighborhood walking, so I took this chance to say something. I told her to please consider her dog's breathing issues when jogging. She told me when she jogs with him, she does intervals of light jogging for 1 minute, then does 3 minutes of walking for 15 to 20 minutes, and she only does this every 2 weeks, never in the summer. I see where she's coming from, but I told her he's probably not doing too good. She then says he runs constantly in dog parks for more than an hour, so he's fine. I told her that's different. She says, okay, I hear you, have a great day. Honestly, this is a rude response since I feel dismissed. Are we in the mind of a Karen right now? So I ask if she's going to stop. She says probably not. At this point, I'm mad, so I tell her she shouldn't have gotten this breed then. She then says, yeah, sure, then walks away. I told my wife about this, and she said this is one of the dumbest things I could have done, and I should have minded my own business. So, was I in the wrong? You're the a-hole. It started okay, you had a concern for the animal's well-being and seemed to voice it respectfully. She then showed that she was, in fact, knowledgeable of potential issues and planned to properly for them, as well as showing that she knew her own dog better than you do. At that point, you should have backed off. Instead, you escalated, and for that, you are the a-hole. Things went bad when she dismissed him. It sounds like he thinks he's entitled to her attention. There's a weird dynamic here. I know so many people that are annoyed by this word, but good lord the mansplaining. ETA, I can't respond to all the triggered replies I'm getting, but I like hearing them. So please keep going because you've made me realize that the only people annoyed by this word are people I love to annoy. I am the all-knowing dog whisperer, Peter veterinarian expert, and you will listen to me. I heard little Gideon's voice here from Gravity Falls. Should have listened to your wife. You're the a-hole. Exactly. OP should have listened to his wife because what that girl does is none of his business. You're the a-hole. Oh, and it sounds like she was trying to be polite and OP was feeling entitled. It is his business to politely ask if she is aware about the breed's safety. After learning that she was aware of the issues, and more aware of them than he was, he should have backed off. The "it's none of your business" is an outdated mindset, but as you said, she was nice about him voicing his concerns and reassured him she knew about his breathing problems and had solutions to avoid exacerbating them. Then he became the massive a-hole when he continued. Exactly. Those dogs can have serious issues, so it's fine that he mentioned something at first. Lots of people can buy those types of dogs because they're cute and they don't do much research. However, once she proved knowledge about the situation, he should have shut up and moved on. She's obviously done her research and she knows her dog better than he does. He's a massive flaming a-hole. Posted by user Lost in the Clouds X, titled, "Am I the a-hole for saying I love my dog more than my kids? I've never had a motherly instinct, don't like strings attached or being tied down. I've worked 60+ hour weeks since I was 18, and when I'm not working, I like to party. I ended up getting pregnant with a party friends with benefits 20 years ago. Fortunately for me, he was willing to take the baby and let me sign over all rights and responsibility. I quit partying, went through the pregnancy, and gave birth to a beautiful set of twin girls. I felt nothing that a mother should feel. They were gorgeous, but I felt as if I was looking at my friends' babies. All I wanted to do was heal and get back to my life. My family didn't care either way, and the baby's father had a solid support system with his parents and few sisters, so I felt relieved. It was a win-win. I promised him before the girls were born I would provide for the girls financially, but I did not want to be the mother figure. Without fail, I have paid for their school, vacations, etc. since they were born. They chose to have a relationship with me, but not in a mother-daughter capacity. I'll be around on birthdays or holidays if the timing is right, but don't want them waiting on me. I want them looking to their father and their mum for parental support. I see her as their real mum. He got with her less than a year after the kids were born, and they've been together ever since, but see below. A few months back, we had a good-sized New Year's party at my apartment. The girls and their parents were there with many other people. We have had parties like this many times. The twins have also been coming around my place more often in the past few years to hang out and whatever. Our relationship could be described as cool auntie/nieces. They've never made it apparent that they felt any kind of way, except at this party. Something happened, and I said something along the lines of, "My dog is my baby. I couldn't live without him." Everyone was drinking, and whatever I said was in a flippant, light-hearted way. But twin number 1 gets snippy and passive-aggressive, then number 2 starts saying serious crap. I abandoned them, I never loved them, I'm a crap mother, and the worst, I left them to be raised by a stepmother. Their mum left in tears. Their dad was livid, and I told them to both kick rocks. They're lucky to have a stepmother, like her name. That they would have been a lot worse off if I was their mother figure. I told them that they can pee off until they apologize to their mother and resolve the conflict between themselves as a family. FYI, in my opinion, and from what I've witnessed in the last few decades, those girls can do no wrong in their mother's eyes, and are treated like princesses. Dare I say spoiled. They've been in therapy since mid-teens and have never expressed these feelings to their parents, me, or their therapists. I don't feel it's my place to resolve this conflict, be present in the discussion, yes if asked, but not be the mediator. So, am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole, for the simple fact is you hang around. Those children have a biological link and yearning for you, and for them to hear that must be awful, especially when you won't go away. It would be better for you to be absent than for them to hear they come second place to a dog. She was providing the financial support she promised, and the girls wanted to be with her. How is that her fault? The girls are at fault here for simply thinking that their current mother is trash, and that they can just treat her like that. It's not OP's fault that they have lashed out, it's on them. You can't treat adults and children as equal in this situation. They are not children anymore. From the OP, I think they're in their 20s, and that's absolutely crappy behavior with their mum. Because yes, their stepmother is their mum and the OP is their aunt, just like OP said. This kind of abandonment issues would have appeared way before that if there was ever an issue before. Teens can't control their emotions that well and would have lashed out if it was ever a problem. Now it just sounds like an adult temper tantrum meant to hurt and nothing else. You don't stop being the child in the situation, even if you think they're in their 20s. Abandonment issues don't discriminate on age, and also there is only an assumption the stepmother has treated them well. At some point, you need to be a grown adult and take responsibility for your words, actions, and feelings. This applies to them as well. Wow, this is such a bad take. It's shocking knowing how black and white you think this issue is. They are not children anymore. Okay, but how old were they when this all started? OP says the kids chose to have her in their lives, but at what age? She mentions coming around for birthday parties, which makes it sound like they were probably relatively young, and of course, children who have been abandoned by a parent are going to choose to have that parent back in their life. They're children, and having a deadbeat parent who flits in and out of your life on their own schedule hurts children. Every time. You're kidding yourself if you think you wouldn't have a problem with this if OP was a man. We're just not used to seeing mums in this situation. Kids don't understand child support. They understand that you're their mother and they have fun with you, but you're never around and you don't call them, and they don't know where you are or what you're doing, and their friends have mums who pick them up from school and make them snacks and care about their problems, and they love you, but they're confused. It was never fair to put them in the position of deciding to have their mother half-heartedly in their lives or never see her again. There was never a possibility that they wouldn't deal with any sort of resentment or abandonment issues. They're human beings. Saying that you love your dog like a child to the children you abandoned is obviously incredibly insensitive. Because yes, their stepmother is their mum and the OP is their aunt, just like OP said. It's not up to OP to decide her daughter's relationship with their stepmom. Only the daughters can choose that. You don't get to abandon your kids and come around twice a year and be the fun aunt/uncle and abdicate 100% of the emotional responsibility. Your kids are still going to have feelings about you, and they're going to be incredibly complicated. This kind of abandonment issue would have appeared way before that. If they were ever an issue before, teens can't control their emotions that well, and would have lashed out if there was ever a problem. The goal of you thinking you're in a position to state that because the girls expressed their feelings at 20 instead of 16, they must not be real is just astounding to me. I don't even know what to say to that. I guess I didn't realize that there was a statute of limitations after which your feelings become fake and invalid if you haven't expressed them, and that you, a random person on Reddit, get to decide that point for total strangers. I can't imagine what worldview you must have to read this situation and assertively state that the girls definitely don't have abandonment issues. It's certainly not an ongoing problem at all, and that they are obviously just petty, vindictive, bad people who choose to hurt others for no reason. Because they're 20, and 20-year-olds are adults, and adults don't have issues, only teenagers. Just wow. Yikes. Am I the a-hole for abandoning my friend at a club due to a panic attack? Prefacing the actual story. I suffer from ADHD and sensory processing dysfunction. Whenever sensory overload occurs, I tend to react extremely irrational. I also want to state that I made my friend aware of that shortly after we met, a year ago or so. Still, my condition does not stop me from attempting to get into situations where sensory overstimulation may occur, such as a party or a club. After all, I can't just crawl into my shell all day long every day. Yesterday, I was in such a situation. My friend and I decided to have a night out at a local club to celebrate her newfound job. She's been homeless for a few months, and just to have a good time in general. Things started out well. Shots were poured, laughs were had, and stories were shared. After about 2 to 3 hours of fun, she suddenly decided to get a cig. Unfortunately, she didn't bring any herself. Instead, she decided to simply go into the smokers area and ask around if anyone was willing to share. She asked me if I would join her, but as a non-smoker, I decided against it. So she left me to my devices and went for a cig. 5 minutes turned into 10, 15, 20 minutes. Slowly, the effects of my shot were fading away, and I started to realize how full the club had become. Music started to appear louder to me. People kept shoving past me, and I just felt left alone, and the sensory overload started to creep in. I felt anxiety and nervousness take a hold of me. I started contemplating trying to find her and tell her, but I decided to suck it up and stay put. Don't ask why, but for some reason I didn't want to disturb her smoking session. Just as about 25 minutes had passed, she suddenly returned, with a guy in tow. She offered him drinks and asked him to join us. I politely shook his hand, but my brain somehow perceived him as just another load onto my already overloaded brain. I also didn't want to put up with being third-wheeled that night either. So that's when I snapped. My brain was in full fight-or-flight mode. When she turned to the bar to order new shots, I simply grabbed my coat and walked out. I eventually reached a bus station and got a ticket home. Only when my anger and panic started to fade, the realization crept in that I'm probably a massive a-hole and a moron for leaving her alone in a club at 2 a.m. I quickly messaged her, apologizing profusely, but trying to explain I acted purely on instinct. She was pretty drunk, so she was just confused. However, as I woke up this morning, I tried to call her to talk it out, and she just snapped at me for not telling her that I felt unwell, and accusing me of not trusting that she would understand. Instead, I left her alone in town in her, let's just say, attractive outfit, with no way home. Last trains to her place for the night had already left, so it was 2 to 3 hours till the first morning train. Which is totally fair. That's exactly what I did. I just hadn't thought about any of it while in full flight mode. She rightfully lost all trust in me, while I have to come to face with the realization that I didn't trust her either, since I didn't expect her to understand that I was feeling unwell. Hence why I didn't tell her. But am I really the a-hole in this situation, or should she have been more considerate? Yes, you're the a-hole. You'd know this could happen, so you both should have made a plan B. And even with your sensory overload, you should have told her you were leaving. You're the a-hole. Don't abandon your friends in clubs, especially if you're their ride home. I was not her ride home. She just wanted me to stick around because being alone at night sucks, even if it is just waiting for the first morning train, which I guess is true. Or potentially because some women are nervous doing this solo. You're the a-hole, you are responsible for how you handle your emotions, even if they are negative emotions. You left her rideless and drunk in a club with a stranger. You're the a-hole, I understand having mental issues, but it almost feels like you're using them as a scapegoat in this situation. It's up to you to take measures that'll compensate for your sensory overload problems, like setting up a plan B, for example. You refused to interrupt your friend's smoking, which I'm sure would have been fine to them in your case. But if I was that friend, I wouldn't want anything to do with you after what you did. You abandoned your friend instead of communicating your issues. Meta. Update on me abandoning my friend at the club. So, Reddit rendered judgment and labeled me the a-hole for leaving my friend at the club, which is totally fair. I could have communicated my rising anxiety 1,000,000 times better than I did. I'd planned to have another talk with her anyways, but she showed me the cold shoulder until yesterday evening when I was finally able to reach her by phone. So, I apologized and admitted I had been lying to her about feeling well because I did not want to ruin the evening for her, which I did anyways. She told me to grow up. Teenagers made those mistakes out of insecurity, but a 24-year-old grown man should not, which is fair. She did turn this into a little bit of a mental torture session, detailing all the reasons why it's a dick move to leave a female alone in a club with no way home at 2 a.m., to which I responded that I really thought she was a club veteran and as such would not be fazed. She went on to complain about how far removed from reality my thinking was, which once again showed that I probably didn't make it clear to her that this was my first real time at a dance club with a girl. I've been to bars and pubs before, but always in groups with guys, never alone with a girl. So yeah, major screw-ups all around. Guess I really didn't think this through at all, but the worst L was yet to come. Eventually, of course, the whole thing with the third wheel / other guy was a topic too, and I took a deep breath and decided that if this friendship was on the knife's edge right now anyway, I might as well go all the way to get rid of all the tension. So I told her that jealousy also played a part in my actions, that her behavior had not only attracted other guys, but me as well, and that I thought I had been replaced once she had pulled another guy. Turns out the dude was never going to be her one-night stand, but just a friendly dude she shared a cig with. Once again, I showed my social immaturity by thinking every guy looking the way of her would want to bang her. The real shocker, however, was that according to her, if I had played my cards right, she might have even considered an FWB situation with me. I wasn't wholly unattractive to her, and it does not take much for her to have sex with someone for fun. I decided to end the call at that point. I needed some time to reflect. In the end, I think I have made some valuable life experiences, no matter how late they might be, but I feel I lost a friend in the process. So there you have it, a bittersweet follow-up to a pretty big a-hole-ish screw-up. Good that you tried to make it better. I know you learned something. The real shocker with this one. Dude, this is so not true. She is just throwing it there to have you hanging. Well, basically, what I should have done is just ask. But she could have asked too. Shrug. She probably thought I was only in it platonically, which was true for most of our friendship. No, dude, she was never going to sleep with you. She's just saying this crap to mess with you. 100% she's lying and messing with you since she said that. I've seen a number of girls and had a few girls who were crappy dates pull that card. Relatable. OP, you are the a-hole in this situation, but your friend sounds like a real piece of work. First, leaving your friend by themselves while you smoke for 20 minutes is unbelievably rude. Less rude than abandoning them entirely, to be sure. But what the hell? And telling you were a dick so I don't want to be your friend anymore? By the way, I was totally gonna screw you, but you dropped the ball. Come the frick on. You don't need that crap in your life. Definitely use this as a learning experience, because you should have handled the night better. But she is so far from innocent in this that it is unbelievable that this sub is making you out to be the only bad guy. I'm glad the other side of the story came out in this part, because we don't always see both sides, we don't always get all the information. I feel like we got a good idea of the situation in this one, and I'm happy how this one ended. Posted by user JumpBradJump, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my wife to visit her obgyn after we have been having trouble conceiving? As the title suggests, I, 28 male, and my wife, 27 female, have been trying for a child for about 6 months. There are a couple of factors at play here as to why we may be having difficulties, so my thought is to rule out as much as possible. She has a bleeding disorder and a family history of ovarian cysts, and I'm a bit concerned about whether or not she'll even be able to have children. Yesterday, we found out that for yet another month, we were unsuccessful. In my frustration, I put my hands on my head, and she immediately followed with, "Why are you making this about you?" I tried to explain that I was struggling with each month, getting our hopes up, and that she probably felt the same way. She didn't want to hear my side, and it ended in an argument about how I make it about me. I could understand how I could have put my feelings aside, but in the moment after hearing a no again, I was a bit distraught. I followed up by suggesting that she go and get a checkup. For the last 9 months, she has been without insurance. She quit her job to pursue a dream of hers and has no benefits. I recently was able to get her on my benefits, and so this is a possibility. She is making the claim that it is her body and that is her decision. I can't force her to go get checked up. Her big hang-up is that the doctors typically say that you need to try to conceive for 1 year before bothering them with any concerns of issues with pregnancy. We are at month 6. I suggested that my wife tell a white lie. How will they know when we started anyway? In order to find out if there are any issues with her bleeding disorder or cysts. She again reiterated that that isn't my choice, and that she wanted to wait for a year. Again, I'm only hoping to rule out medical concerns for conceiving. I am in no way accusatory or think that it is her fault. Hell, the problem might even be me. But am I the a-hole for asking or requesting that she goes and gets a checkup for issues conceiving? You're the a-hole for 2 reasons. A, don't lie to doctors about how long you've been trying to conceive. They say 12 months because that's a reasonable amount of time that there might be an issue. So don't waste their time. And B, you don't seem to care about getting yourself checked out. You see, it could be your fault, so you should be jumping in to get yourself checked too. Wait 6 more months as is recommended. If nothing happens, you can both go and get tests. The 1 year thing isn't a hard and fast rule. When I went off birth control with plans to try conceiving, my gyne told me to come back if I didn't have a period within 3 months and wasn't perfectly regular within 6. 3 months later, I was back. He did some tests and diagnosed me with PCOS. He got us started with Clomid while I was waiting to get to the local fertility clinic. If there's a reason to suspect an actual problem, they will check for it. The 1-year wait is more common when there is no apparent problem. Definitely don't lie to the doctor, but it's not unheard of to get a checkup prior to trying to conceive. Maybe OP and his wife should start there, especially if she has been without insurance for a while. You're the a-hole. I've had so many friends be told that they would have difficulty conceiving, some for years, some adopted. One was told it was impossible. All of them now have kids, most have quite a few. Just calm down. Wait a little bit, quit worrying about it. 6 months is a tiny bit of time in the life of a child. Enjoy this time with your wife, love her, maybe go to therapy to relieve your control issues or anxiety, and just relax. But definitely stop trying to make your wife do stuff she doesn't want to do. Just stop. It makes you an a-hole. I second this wholeheartedly. You both need to stop worrying about trying to make a baby and then just enjoy making love and having sex. You both are putting too much pressure on each other and trying to follow up a life plan, but life isn't planned out. It just happens. Just enjoy each other with no expectations and wait the year out. AITA follow-up. Asking my wife to get an OB-GYN checkup. I posted a while back about asking my wife to go get checked since we had been unable to conceive for about 6 months of trying. I logged out of Reddit after the post and came back to several posts saying I was the a-hole and that I should get checked myself. I had actually already ordered an at-home semen analysis test prior to posting, and it came in a few days ago. I decided to take the test and found that I had a negative result, meaning that the problem is likely a result of me and not her. She's being supportive of the whole ordeal, and I have ordered another one to be sure. I will take it in a few days. I suppose I was the a-hole all along. Wanted to provide a follow-up for those who said that I should get checked because I had already planned to. Nevertheless, it is my weight to bear now about seeking treatment and options. Posted by user Throwaway179, titled, Am I the a-hole for giving away my son's cat? So my son, 15, has had a cat, Spacey, for 7 years. He loves Spacey. He sleeps on my son's bed, and my son takes care of him quite well. I recently started to date someone who is allergic to cats. It's not a sniffle allergy, but a pretty severe one, not deadly though. My partner and I have started to get more serious. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and I can't have him over often because of his allergy. So I decided to rehome Spacey. My son is very upset about this and yelled at me, saying I was selfish and throwing Spacey away for some man I haven't known for very long. Since my husband's death, I haven't really met anyone that I've clicked with. I didn't know what else to do. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I was on the fence about whether or not I was the a-hole or not. I didn't want to upset my son, but please understand, I have had no companionship for many years since my husband's death, and as such, I reacted quickly when there was a chance I could lose this man too. I'll speak to my son about getting Spacey back home. I hope I do not lose my partner, but it is better than losing my son. Your responses have confirmed what I'm thinking. Thank you for your judgments. Yes, obviously you're the a-hole. That cat was a part of your family, and most importantly, he was your son's beloved pet for 7 years, nearly half his life. You rehomed that poor animal for your new boyfriend's comfort. I say this as someone who is severely allergic to cats and had to rehome my own out of necessity to preserve my own life. I was in and out of the hospital multiple times before I made the heartbreaking decision to rehome my cat. I can tell you that if it had been one of my parents who chose to give away my pet without my consent for the sake of their boyfriend and girlfriend's comfort, not even life, just occasional comfort when visiting, I would have been livid, and I never would have forgiven them. That is selfish and plain sociopathic. The cat was there before your boyfriend. This is not going to win you or your boyfriend any awards in your son's eyes. Be grateful if he doesn't resent that man and you for the rest of his life. For that betrayal and cruelty. Disgusting. You're the a-hole. We need a new tag. SPA for super a-hole. Teenagers need their pets to help with anxiety. Not sure why the dad isn't there, but that cat probably helps your son cope. Not sure if this guy read the post, but okay. Pets become family members. Are you going to give your son away too if he becomes inconvenient? Your son probably thinks you will. You're the a-hole. You are the mayor of a-hole town here. Not only did you give away a cat, you stole it from your son and destroyed any chance of your son having any semblance of a good relationship with this dude that you only recently started dating. Update: am I the a-hole for giving my son's cat away? I spoke to my son and we're getting Spacey back tomorrow. He's not far from us, and the new owners, family friends, are happy to return Spacey, especially as it has not been very long since we rehomed him. My son is very happy. He is still angry at me, and that's understandable. I can't believe I did such a thing. It's not an excuse, but I was caught up in feeling something again after so long, and when my partner told me I had to rehome Spacey, I just listened. I have not spoken to my new partner about this yet, but I suppose that doesn't matter. Thank you for your help. You're the a-hole. As much as I'd like to forgive you for getting the cat back, I doubt your son ever will. Please seriously reconsider your priorities. Not the a-hole now that you've reversed this situation. However, if you do thoughtless, harmful things in the future just because it's easier to go along with what your partner wants, then thinking things through and doing what you feel is actually right, then you go back to being an a-hole. I agree. I'm wondering whether my partner is good for me at this point. I am still an a-hole for what I did. Reversing what I did doesn't absolve me, and I understand that. For what it's worth, this can be a learning experience. Feeling like you have someone who loves you and you love back is a powerful thing. It often leads people to make bad decisions. Giving up things they love is one of the most common such things, as is making major choices without considering the consequences. It's also easy to give up people you love. Usually that means losing touch with friends, but it can also mean forgetting that your son is your #1 priority and your only family now. This happened to you. To your credit, you listened in the last post and are trying to make things right. But what you should remember is the feeling that led you to make such a decision. Remember that in your next relationship. As for the partner, details are everything. If he knew it's the son's childhood pet, and he still said, lose the cat or lose me, then he's the a-hole. Because let me tell you something about relationships. In a healthy relationship, you and your partner are a team, working together as partners to solve any problem you may encounter, including internal problems. In a healthy relationship, where both partners are a team, both partners will treat a problem for either one as a problem for both. That means it's not me versus you, it's us together versus the problem. For example, I'm allergic to the cat. Get rid of the cat or I'm gone is a one-sided me versus you statement. It totally ignores the fact that you and or your son love the cat, and that the cat is a member of your family. You should respond to that about the same as you would respond to, I don't like the boy, get rid of the boy or I'm gone. Tell him that the cat/boy is a member of your family and you will not abandon them. And if they are making you choose between them and your family, well, you'll miss them, but that's not a choice. The right way to deal with this is the cat makes me allergic, how can we work together to make this relationship work? You don't want the dude to be allergic, he doesn't want to be allergic, and you both want to spend time together. So you start small. Maybe he takes Benadryl, or maybe he gets this allergy shot, or maybe you hang out at his place instead of yours. The important thing is you work together. I hope this helps you, OP. I also hope you can repair the relationship with your son. If someone ever tried to give away a pet of mine without permission, I don't think I would ever trust them again. The type of person who deserves my trust is not capable of doing something so cruel and selfish. I mean this not as an insult, but to hopefully get you to think about what kind of person you want to be. Because life, every day, is about deciding and discovering who you are. Best of luck. Posted by user Throwaway445566, titled, Am I the a-hole for snapping at my boyfriend in front of his/our friends over jokes that make me uncomfortable? Obviously this is a throwaway account. People know my usual account. I'll try to keep it short. My relationship with my boyfriend, 20 male, I'm also 20, has been mostly good, but going downhill recently for a lot of reasons that aren't the topic of this post. Anyway, over the last several weeks, every once in a while, my boyfriend will make sexual jokes at my expense and include our friends in the jokes. I say our because I am the only girl in this friend group, and all of the other guys seem to prefer my boyfriend. The jokes have been anything between implying I took part in a sexual act, which may or may not have been true depending on what they joke about, to making a joke explicitly about me, saying something like, OP must do X or act like Y in bed, ha ha ha. My boyfriend sometimes makes the joke, sometimes one of the other guys does. Either way, he seems to think that they're funny. I do not, and have either explicitly told him so, calmly and only to him, or just tried to ignore it and avoid it through body language, etc. The jokes make me extremely uncomfortable. Nothing has worked, obviously, since the jokes still happen occasionally. Today it happened again, and something in me just snapped and I couldn't control the words before they came out. We were all at a dinner at a busy dining hall at our university, and another joke was made. All the guys thought it was funny again. Suddenly, I snapped at my boyfriend, but definitely not shouting, more like a very angry loud whisper. Nobody else in the dining hall seemed to notice. I basically said, "Stop it, that's not funny." Everyone at the table suddenly looked awkward, even though I only addressed my boyfriend. My boyfriend looked flabbergasted for a moment, before he looked angrily and said, kind of paraphrasing here, "You do not speak like that to me in front of my friends. That is incredibly embarrassing and rude." I attempted to apologize. I said, "Sorry for saying it like that," but he didn't seem to accept my attempt to apologize, so I dropped it. I think I only tried to apologize to keep him from being too mad at me. It would have felt wrong to apologize for trying to stand up for myself. Does that make sense? Later this evening, my boyfriend said what I did is considered emotional abuse and that I have issues. What? Oh my god, none of my friends have said anything about the incident. We are probably breaking up soon, but I want to know if I deserve my boyfriend's frustration. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my boyfriend in front of his/our friends? Is what I did abuse? Not the a-hole. You tried to tell him calmly and he ignored you. It's not ideal to lose your temper, but you're only human. Your boyfriend is full of malarkey. He's full of crap. Lol, I wrote crap when I wrote the comment first, but I changed it to malarkey because I thought it was more polite. Him saying that is emotional abuse. He's gaslighting you, OP. He's embarrassing you in front of his friends. He's making fun of you in public. You told him to stop and he responded by saying it's not okay for you to embarrass him in front of his friends. What the frick? Maybe you could say that you should have waited until later and confronted him in private, but only to avoid conflict. It's not okay for a guy to continually make fun of his girlfriend in public about sexual things. That's sexual harassment, OP. And you have every right to tell someone to stop if they're making you uncomfortable. DTMFA. Edit, reading comprehension. She told him to stop in private. Double DTMFA. What a dick. I don't know what that means, but you guys can tell me if you'd like. So your boyfriend constantly insults you and gives away information about your sexuality as jokes, and lets others insult you too under the same guise. You say stop, which you have every right, and was angry, which is valid, and because he doesn't want to, he is upset his a-holery has finally been called out. Then he tries to flip the switch to save face so he can continue to do it. Yeah, not the a-hole, and please speed up that breakup. And am I the a-hole for snapping at my boyfriend in front of his friends? Update. Also, am I the a-hole for the new developments? Hi everyone. A few people asked for an update, and I found the time and energy to write one, so I thought I would make one, but this is pretty long. My original post can be found here. I posted that on November 30, I believe. It's now December 3rd, and even though it's only been a few days, a lot has happened. So much stuff I never expected that I can't believe it's happened. It's really been a whirlwind since I made my post. Some people wanted an update, so I wrote down some of the stuff that happened so I could remember it all. To keep this post relevant to the sub, I'm still asking for feedback about if I'm the a-hole for anything, etc. A TLDR is at the bottom. Am I the a-hole? First off, I went to break up with him on the morning of December 1st, though it quickly turned into a mutual breakup as my now ex didn't seem upset about breaking up. It was surprising actually. It was very civil. He even said something like, "We had rough times, but in the future I will look back at us with fond memories." This surprised me a little, but I just wanted to leave, so I essentially just said, "Same," and left. Only a few minutes after leaving, I felt a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. Anyway, later that day on December 1st, I was just doing some stuff to relax, like watching funny YouTube videos. I had tweeted something like, "I just laughed the hardest I have in a long while, and it felt really good," and thought nothing of it. It's like me to tweet random pointless things, so this wasn't out of character for me. A couple hours later, I get a lot of angry texts from my ex. I didn't block his number because the breakup seemed civil, and I just forgot about it. He was attacking me for my tweet, called me a machine with no emotions, like a robot, and said other things like, "Just get out of my life, you absolutely mean person." He said I never actually cared about him. There were some cuss words in there and a lot of caps lock. I kind of just freaked out, tried to de-escalate the situation, etc. But my ex was having none of it and eventually stopped replying. I did too and tried to ignore it all. By this point, our friends knew about the breakup. So yesterday on December 2nd, I woke up feeling bad and angry about the situation. So I messaged all my friends that I wanted to talk about some things with them. I didn't say it, but I wanted to talk about the jokes and one thing. In the couple of months before the breakup, I noticed that my friends kept ditching plans with me to do them with my boyfriend. For example, twice I asked everyone if they wanted to see a new movie together. They said yes, and we set a tentative date. However, both times I would message them about the movie, and they revealed they had already gone to see it with my then boyfriend. This happened twice, even though the second time I offered to buy all the tickets. Nothing like this happened when one of the guys would make plans. They agreed to talk. It went well at first, but my ex didn't show because, as I later found out, he was too scared of me to come. Anyway, the talk went well, and I thought most of the issues were resolved. At the end of the talk, my boyfriend texted one of the guys and said he was too scared to come because I emotionally abused him. To my knowledge, this was the first time the guys heard this because they didn't know what my ex was talking about. We left the discussion, and one of the guys went over to talk to my ex. Soon after, I got a message from this guy. He said he wanted me and my ex to talk things out. I was skeptical and didn't want to, but he kept pressuring me to do it, so I gave in. This guy told me to basically let my ex walk all over me by not arguing with my ex, because my ex was feeling too sensitive and upset for confrontation. So why would he want to talk? But whatever. I just did it so everyone would get off my back and to try to get some closure. So yesterday night, I talked to my ex from like 11 PM to 1 AM. A lot of stuff was said and I don't remember it all, but a few things stood out to me. First, my ex defined me emotionally abusing him as a couple of things. 1. The incident at dinner, overall emotional compatibility, life goals that were already interfering with each other, ? Clashing personalities, and finally that me abusing him was not my fault. So I was very confused. I don't think these count as abuse. I then tried to tell him how I felt. These included, he brought up his struggle with mental illness when we would argue, and I felt like he would try to manipulate me with it. He got frustrated at me when I didn't want to spend all my free time with him, told me asexuality was an issue to get over when I was questioning myself, and finally, he would pressure me into sex. He did this a decent amount. He would say he needed sex to relieve tension and feel better. When I would cry during sex, he would get upset as well, but then convince me to keep going by saying, "We'll both feel better if we finish it." So I always just gave in and obliged. I rarely wanted sex with him, especially more recently, but always consented just to get him off my back. I felt gross doing this, but thought it would just be better to deal with it, and I didn't want to tell him all of this, because I didn't want to make him mad. It's just how I felt. Especially being pressured into sex in a past relationship, it really sucked, but I'm glad it's over now. Anyway, when I tried to explain any of this to him, he would not take any responsibility for it, even though I never said I blame you for ... or anything. One thing I remember is when I told him about feeling pressured into sex, he said that he only ever did something like that because he felt neglected or because he was frustrated with me for something I did or didn't do in the time between sexual encounters. I felt really bad about this, but didn't really know how to respond, so I did kind of end up letting my ex walk all over me. I also didn't want to make a scene because we were in a semi-public space and didn't want to look weak by leaving early. Also, I was worried if I got angry, he would have more evidence for me being abusive. Eventually, it ended and I left. Before I left, he told me that his family, who I have met and got along with, now hates me. I thought and hoped that could be the end of things, but earlier today on December 3rd, something else happened. I tried reaching out to a couple of the friends I felt closer to, but something was weird. In a couple of classes I had with the guys, they seemed to avoid me more than usual, so I asked what was up. They said my ex was really messed up by what had happened, and they want to focus on making him better, so can't focus on me or something. They mentioned that my ex had been in their room crying for a few hours. I told them that I was being falsely accused of stuff, but they were like, we don't really know what happened, but X is more torn up than you, so we need to be good friends to him. Something about this just rubbed me the wrong way. So after I was done with classes, I wrote up a document that basically was a letter to the group chat. It basically said that I was being falsely accused, and my friends were blindly giving in and devoting themselves to my ex. I told them that I was cutting them off, and told them to not contact me again. I did this kind of at the advice of Redditors who commented on my original post, and partially on impulse. So I feel kind of bad about doing it. They might think I was being emotional, rude tramp, and crap talk me behind my back. I don't know. None of them have contacted me, so that's good, obviously. But I can't help but feel that I am owed an apology, but it really hurts because I'll see some of them in class, and I'm basically left with no friends. These guys were my only friends at school. All I have are some acquaintances left. Nobody I could text and be like, hey, wanna hang out? So while I'm happy about the breakup, I feel so crappy because I have no friends left, and it almost feels worse. I've just been watching funny YouTube videos and doing homework. It's been helping, but at this point I'm just overall just numb, I guess. Am I the a-hole for any of this? And once again, thank you everyone for your helpful comments. Not the a-hole. Dude sounds like he's playing the victim card to garner support for your mutual friends. Total basket case, move on. Just move on. Not the a-hole. Sounds to me like your ex was successful in playing the victim card and manipulating the entirety of your mutual friend group. If I were you, I'd consider this to be the end of your friendships with these people. Not the a-hole 100%. They're not really your friends. You shouldn't ever feel pressured to consent to sex, and your ex is doing his best to manipulate the situation, using language to get a reaction. Block him off of everything and do the same with his group of friends. Your life will be much easier and more peaceful. Not the a-hole. Read some books about toxic relationships. Your friends can fornicate with a can of bug spray. Screw off. You're using relationship mending techniques that are meant for overall healthy relationships, not relationships with toxic people. None of what you described of your behavior was abusive. You were not having different goals to him. I'm sorry you're lonely at the moment, but there is nothing in here other than your friends being toxic a-holes. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it today, guys. Anyway, guys, I don't really have much else to say that hasn't been said already. I do feel like it was a very toxic situation, and you have to get out of that situation there. It's not healthy for your mind. I guess that's all I have to say. Titled, Am I the A-hole? Roommate wants me to move out January 2nd and wants his deposit that day. Hi, very long time lurker and in need of some advice, and I apologize for the long post. I, female 38, am the leaseholder of a 3-bedroom house. I rent out 2 of the rooms. I got a text this afternoon that roommate number 3, male 24, wants to move out January 1st, that the room is too small for him and he wants to spend New Year's Eve in a larger space. My response was, cool. When I spoke in person, he wants to move out January 2nd and wants his deposit back the same week. I am in my last year of grad school. I said if he has to move out on the 1st or the 15th and will receive his deposit after I inspect the room. He says he needs the money now. I explained that he is moving out at the worst possible time, and that it's almost impossible to find a suitable roommate January 1st. So I have to cover his part of the rent, my part of the rent, and tuition for my last semester. I asked him to work with me so I can have a paycheck so I don't leave myself broke. I'll give him back his deposit 2 weeks after he moves out. He said that I was making him feel bad for moving out, and to be honest, I'm worried about me. I don't have any other support but student loans and a part-time job. I am in the middle of finals and now I'm scrambling to find a roommate. Am I the a-hole by not letting him move out on the 2nd and giving him his deposit then and there? Not the a-hole. You owe him his deposit when the law says you owe him the deposit. Anything before that is a favor. I don't know what the law says there, but here it's usually the deposit is returned ASAP. He's given more than a month's notice, so why can't he have the deposit back? Because the security deposit is retained until it is confirmed no damage has occurred. Sometimes damage takes some time to manifest itself, thus the prescribed statutory period to refund a security deposit, and the time to return the deposit starts on the day after the lease ends. In this case, probably the 3rd, then runs for the statutory time. Not the a-hole. Do what you need to do first, because if you give him his deposit and his room is screwed, you lose yours. Everyone sucks here. He should know he can't demand his deposit back whenever he feels, and you shouldn't have spent his security deposit. Where does it say that she spent the deposit? In the comments she left, she stated she did not spend it, but is worried since now she has to cover his part of the rent. Yes, but even if she has to cover his part of the rent, the deposit cannot be used for that or any cost besides damage to the property. Nowhere it states that she has or will. She's worried about making ends meet, and from my understanding, has an issue with giving the money without proper inspection. I just don't understand how her having trouble making ends meet means that she wants to withhold the deposit. From my understanding, she would be inspecting the room on the 1st and 2nd, and then would hold on to the deposit until she was ready to pay it. Now I think she is perfectly fine to hold the deposit for as long as the law states that she can, but it shouldn't have anything to do with her financial situation once she's inspected the room. What do you guys reckon's going on here? And now for update on roommate wanting to move out January 2nd and received his deposit the day he moves out. I asked him last night what his date was since he never gave me a concrete one. He said December 31st and wanted me to Venmo him his deposit the minute he moves out. I said that's not going to happen. I will inspect the room after he leaves. I will send a certified check for the full deposit amount if the room is in good order in 30 days. He started flipping out, saying he wants his frickin' money the moment he moves out. He called me incompetent for not finding a roommate, and that I'm punishing him for moving out. I'm a manipulative bear who wants people to feel sorry for me. That I made him feel guilty for moving out, and that he has a lawyer friend who will look at this situation. I responded with, I am not punishing him for moving out, but protecting myself, and from moving forward, I only feel comfortable talking to his lawyer. I said if he continues to speak with me like this, I will call the police. I was beginning to feel that unsafe with him. Now I am afraid he will do something mean to my cats. He acted like this to some of our mutual friends before, and some of them offered to be here when he moves out to be safe. I also told roommate number 2 about what happened and he will lend a hand. And that's the last update we got. Jesus Christ, what did this post turn into? Not the a-hole, still. Even though you aren't looking for a judgment. Lol, I read the last post. Wow. Venmo? Screw this dude. Certified check so there is decent proof, not just some bullcrap on Venmo. If this guy gives you any more crap, I would definitely call the police. It is not normal to get your deposit the day you move out, or hell, even usually within a few days. Mine have usually taken a week at least, if not 2 weeks to do so. Keep your cats away from that dude, and if he does anything, call the cops. In my state, landlords and renters have 3 weeks to give your deposit back. Just Google, how long do landlords have to return security deposit, insert your state here, and that should answer your question. I don't really know how your month-to-month lease thing with him is contracted, or if it was verbal or what. I just found that part in your previous post. Posted by user JustLooking85, titled, "Am I the a-hole? My dad wants to marry a stranger, and we have told him we will have nothing to do with her." So my dad wants to marry someone my sister and I don't know, 10 months after our mum died. Our dad told us on Tuesday of his plans to marry someone in November. Our mum, his wife of 43 years, died in July 2019. Me, 34 female, and my sister, 36 female, had our dad tell us that he is going to marry someone he reconnected with in November. We live in Australia, and the person he is going to marry lives in England, where he and mum were from. My parents moved to Australia 42 years ago when they married at 19/20. My sister and I have only ever lived in Australia, with just brief time in England when we were young and in our early 20s. We don't know our aunties and uncles except for Facebook and the brief reunions when we were all in England. Our mum died in July last year after a 6-month battle with ovarian cancer. Our dad told us in January that he had reconnected with an old childhood friend of theirs, and some feelings were developing. He initially told us that nothing would happen for 2 years, because that was when he was planning on retiring. He told us that on his already planned trip to France and UK in July, that he would be spending some time with her to see if they clicked in person. He then told us, 3 days after Mum's birthday, February 23rd, that he was going there for 2 weeks in March. Because of the Rona, he was there until the 6th of May. He's now back in Oz, but in isolation at a hotel. He called us on Tuesday, 2 days after Mother's Day, to tell us that they are getting married in the UK in November, and he will spend Christmas there. Then him and his wife will come to Australia in January until April, when he will retire, then go back to England. My sister and I are absolutely devastated, not only that he would marry a stranger, at least to us, but that he would also abandon us and our families so soon after our mum died. We have told him if he marries this stranger, that she will not be welcome in our lives or our children's lives. Are we the a-hole? I'm gonna come in here and say yes. Edit. Thank you all for your responses. I see that we are the a-holes here. Grieving the loss of a parent is different to that of a spouse, and we have no right to stand in his way. When he's out of isolation, we'll sit down and have a chat. How I feel about the situation hasn't changed, but how we move forward will. So we'll see some comments here. You're the a-hole. This is about you and your grief. He isn't abandoning you and your families, he is living his life. Nothing stops you from visiting. If he decided to move to the UK alone, would you think he was abandoning you? Probably not. When you're married to someone for over 40 years and you lose them, you want to find companionship. This person isn't someone he never knew. Why not video chat and get to know her? I kind of agree with you, but I don't see why you think they wouldn't feel abandoned if he up and moved alone. I feel more like they'd feel abandoned whether he moved to get married or to do a whiskey tour in Scotland by himself until he died of liver failure, which is also his right as people grieve in different ways. To me, it was kinda not the a-hole, because OP wants to stay as similar as before to feel better, and Dad needs as much change as possible to feel better. Conflicting needs, but it can coexist with some acknowledgement that grief is different. Except OP seems to not care about Dad's needs, which is what makes it you're the a-hole. I agree, everyone has different techniques when it comes to overcoming grief and sadness. I agree that grief is difficult on all parties, and I don't begrudge the father for finding new companionship or even considering moving back to his native England. But to marry only 10 months after your wife's death is just hasty and ill thought. Period. Full stop. Remarrying so soon is reactionary to his grief. It sounds like he's running away from his loneliness instead of running towards an expansive, fulfilling relationship. Of course, I could be wrong, but I doubt I am. His partner is probably a lovely person, but 10 months, with only 6 months of lead-up illness, is far too hasty. OP, likewise, has a ton of unresolved grief, as is normal. I advise them to seek a therapist. You can't control other people, and they will need help to work through what they perceived as their father's betrayal of their mother and their family. When a spouse gets really sick, you move from being spouses to a caretaker role. He has been grieving for a lot longer time than the 10 months. I would also say it is very typical for a spouse, particularly a male, who was happy in his marriage to move on and find someone to fill that role because they were so happy. Super extra gentle, you're the a-hole. I am so sorry about your mum. I totally understand you're still grieving her death, and it seems like her memory is being disrespected because your dad is getting married again so soon to someone you don't know. That being said, your dad is a grown man with grown children. It would be different if you and your sister were still small children. Your dad has no obligations at this point except to himself. I'm sure your mum's death was hard on him as well, and for whatever reason, this new lady has helped him through the process, and now he wants to marry her. This lady is a new chapter in your dad's life, and she is absolutely not replacing your mum. Nobody can replace your mum. Please at least try to allow him this happiness. The very best thing for you to do would be to swallow your pride, tell your dad you're happy for him, and you can't wait to meet his new wife. You may even end up liking her. Swallowing my pride will be done. Our feelings are valid, but our reaction and the impact that could have was not. We don't have to be happy about it, but we can be happy for him, which we are. It's hard to get everything out in a small space. Not the a-hole. Studies show that happily married people are most likely to remarry quickly. He's not at an age where an extended courtship is appropriate. I get that this feels like a betrayal to your mother, but it is not. When my father-in-law died, my mother-in-law met a neighbor and they fell for each other. They married. It has been the best thing for both of them, although the one daughter had a hard time warming up to it. On the other hand, when my dad died, my mother became a living tombstone for him, for 30 lonely years. You do not want this for your father. If you love your father, and it seems you do, be kind. He deserves a happy retirement, and I promise he misses your mum. Living tombstone. Ouch. Perfect term, but oh such a sad and painful and lonely existence that sounds like. Yeah, that's exactly what my grandmother turned into, and it's really not good to see happen in front of you, that's for sure. That's why this one hurts me to read this post, Jesus. I did have a response to this recorded that was very angry as a initial reaction to that, but I deleted that one because it's not respectful to the OP. I just think that they are the a-hole in this situation and need to respect the father's wishes and let him live his life. I feel like they're old enough to be minding their own families at this point, and he can live his life however he wants, because he's about to retire. What, are you going to hold him back in Australia for his whole life? It just seems like a huge disservice to the father, and like you're holding him back from happiness, and I don't think anyone wants that. Posted by user, Am I the a-hole? Throw me away, please. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my nephew food while he's living with me? About a month and a half ago, my 21-year-old nephew lost his job due to the pandemic, and then was illegally evicted from his apartment. He wasn't on the lease and his friend kicked him out, so there's nothing that can be done. He was planning to move in with his girlfriend, who lives in another state, but that is not possible until the end of this month. He called me and asked if he could stay at my place for a month, because he literally had nowhere else to go. I agreed, but with one rule. He has to buy his own food and cannot eat any of ours. I have 3 kids to feed and I can't afford it. At first, everything was fine, but of course he eventually ran out of money. Our state's unemployment office is taking forever with his claim, and no one will hire him since he's moving out of state. There have been a few times where I let him have some of our leftovers, and I cooked for his birthday, but usually he has to find something on his own. I'm not gonna lie, there are quite a few days where he goes with little to no food. But like I said, I just can't afford to feed him. Yesterday, I went and bought Chinese food for me and my boyfriend, and some burgers for the kids. That night, I noticed that some of my food was missing, and I know it wasn't the kids, because they don't like it. I'm honestly fed up at this point. I've been letting him stay here, and I told him not to eat our food. I've talked to one of my friends about this, and she says that I'm being the a-hole by letting him go hungry. I don't agree, because I told him he would have to buy his own food, and I can't afford to another person to feed. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You are literally forcing him to starve while ordering takeout. There are 50-cent pot pies, and yeah, he's in a crap situation, but you are absolutely in the wrong. Not to mention the kids didn't like it, and you had leftovers and still declined to feed the poor man. How can you be that heartless? I just can't afford to feed him and get takeout at the same time. I was like, wow, things must be really tough for her if she can barely afford to feed her kids. Then she gets takeout, and I was like, what? Let's see. A Chinese takeaway might cost £20, which would be enough for a big bag of rice, which would feed him for a month. So your statement, I just can't afford to feed him, turns out to be untrue. You're the a-hole. Totally agree. With £20, if you were being frugal and getting smart price stuff, you could stock up and get enough to live off for 2 weeks if you were careful. I've done it myself when I was young and a broke student. Could you give me some tips, please? I'd really appreciate it. Dry beans and rice are your best bets. You can get multiple pounds for just a few bucks, and they're pretty easy to make. Probably the cheapest way to keep yourself fed. Spend just a little more on chicken stock or canned or frozen veggies to really add flavor. Also, a slightly more expensive option, but one that better covers your nutritional needs, milk, potatoes, and oats. Those 3 things contain all the micronutrients you need and are pretty high carb as well. Marky pro tip, potatoes are pretty good too. You're the a-hole. If he has literally no money to buy food, feed him. It doesn't have to be fancy, but don't let someone you care for, you provide a roof for, go hungry. Maybe skip takeout and see if he can cook something. Home cooked for $6 is cheaper than takeout for $5. And there's also an edit in the post. Alright, big edit time. For those of you hoping this was a troll post, I'm sorry, but it is not. I wish it was. However, the aunt did not write this post. I'm actually the girlfriend in this situation. I originally wrote this hoping to get a few comments about what other people thought. Surprisingly, this blew up. The information in this post is true, however. I wrote this using things she's said and done, my boyfriend's experiences, and her motivations. I agree with what the majority of you have said. I could not watch a fellow human being, let alone my own family, go hungry when I could do something about it. To me, it is reprehensible. I have given him some support since he's been living with her, but there's only so much I can do. Luckily, I get unemployment, but most of that will be going into the first month's rent and fees for our new apartment. Plus, I have a credit card debt that I must pay off every month. I thank all of you for your input, and also the people that have reached out and offered help. It makes me happy that there are selfless people in this world willing to help a complete stranger. In these hard times, it is a light in the darkness. Please stop sending messages wishing his auntie or her family death and harm though. While I don't agree with her choices, no one deserves that. Thanks again. And here's a little saucy story for you guys now. Am I the a-hole for not giving my husband a blowy joey? So, let me say right off the bat, me and my husband enjoy a healthy sex life, with the exception of blowjobs. I hate giving them, and as a result, I only give them on special occasions, his birthday or anniversary. Last night, he came home after what he proclaimed to be a rough day at work. Not even 5 minutes after walking in, he started begging me for one, saying how he needed it to feel better. I told him no, and then said we could have sex later if he wanted. He got all ticked and avoided me for the whole rest of the night. This morning before he left for work, I tried talking to him about what happened, but he burst out at me and yelled that, as his wife, I'm obligated to give him them whenever he wants. I was pretty shocked by this, and in the spur of the moment, I yelled at him that I don't owe him anything and that he has no right to my body. He stormed out and went to work. He texted me a few hours later that he would be staying with a friend for a few days and that I shouldn't expect him at home. I am really panicking now. I have no idea what to do. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give him one? Not the a-hole. You are 100% correct. He has no rights to your body and you have no obligation to be giving him any kind of sexual favors if you don't want to. And if this is his way of getting one from you, he sounds like a terrible person. Not the a-hole. Absolutely not. You are not a sexual servant. Withholding sex as a bargaining chip and simply not wanting to do a sexual act because it makes you uncomfortable are 2 different things. Side note, your husband's words make me shake with rage. Agreed, not the a-hole. And her husband is awful. What a horrible thing to say or think about another human being. He knew OP's preferences going into the marriage, so I find his behavior, overreaction, etc. baffling. Not the a-hole. I'm no expert, but something else might be going on. Yeah, there's more red flags here than in a bullfighting convention. Was he picking a fight on purpose so he could have an excuse to leave the house for a few days? Why would not getting a BJ warrant leaving the house? I'm considering giving him an ultimatum. Come home and discuss this issue, or we take steps to end the marriage. It's extreme, but I don't know what else to do. Whoa, the fact that the ending the marriage is on the table is super telling too. I don't know your relationship, but if you think it's worth saving, I'd sit down with a marriage therapist, stat. Yeah, you don't give ultimatums unless you're at your wit's end. Am I the a-hole for not giving my husband a blowjob? Update. First off, I really want to thank everyone who took the time to provide insightful and thoughtful opinions. My post had a lot of concerned people, so I just wanted to update anyone who cares. My husband came home on his own accord this morning. He was extremely apologetic and immediately sat me down and told me that he wanted to explain everything leading to his outburst. He said that at work, him and his friends had been discussing their sex lives, and he had let slip that he was not receiving any blowjobs. He claims that his friends started insulting him for being weak-willed and not more stern with what he wanted. He says they encouraged him to confront me. Apparently, his friends put the idea in his head that without oral sex, his sex life wasn't legitimate. He told me that he really felt like he was missing out, and that this is what led him to yelling at me. He called in sick from work so he could stay home with me all day. We talked about the future, and he agreed to go to marriage counseling or see a sex counselor together if that is what I wanted. I haven't completely forgiven him yet, but it's just nice to have him back home. I wasn't here for the OG post, but I feel like your husband has some serious crap wrong with him. How does he take some work colleagues' opinions when they don't even know your relationship well enough to judge it? Definitely don't forgive him yet. He deserves to learn what he did wrong. Frankly, the way he treated you is disgusting, and I'd be annoyed or angry with him for a good bit. Maybe counseling would be a good choice. The difference between her husband sharing private information and her sharing it is that she is sharing it as an anonymous person. No one knows OP. He shared his information with people she's probably met before and will meet again. And having intimate details about yourself revealed to people who'd rather not is a huge thing. I don't think it's weird for someone to listen to what a lot of their friends or colleagues are saying about their relationship. I don't think it's right, but I can understand it. Listening is one thing. I can understand that honestly. But to let it boil under their skin until they yell at their significant other is the thing I can't see most people doing. True, but if your self-esteem is low enough, you'll do anything to fit in. And that's a him issue, not a her issue. Marriage counseling would be good, but I'd argue him seeing a psychologist is more important. And yeah, I do think he needs help. I feel like this problem is way too far from being solved, and I don't have much hope for that marriage if he's able to break that easily to his friends. Imagine what other things he could be convinced to do just off of that alone. This man needs help. That's just my opinion. I don't know this marriage. This is just me taking it at face value. Don't read into it too much. Posted by user Throwaway Kalot, titled, "Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my friend who constantly makes comments about my boobs? I have big boobs. I'm currently at 52 kilos, and there's nothing I can do to change the size of these things unless I have surgery. I'm also extremely shy and from a very conservative family, so my resentment and shame towards my bust is an ongoing issue. My friend, Sarah, is one of those unfiltered free thinkers who says whatever is on her mind. She's also slim, and her chest is very much in proportion to the rest of her body. We work together, and I'm always secretly jealous of how great shirts and tops look on her, whereas I look very sloppy and unprofessional with oversized, ill-fitting clothing. Sarah has this way of always bringing up my boobs in conversation, starting off with complimentary, but often ending with a subtle insult. She knows they're a physical feature I'm uncomfortable with, but doesn't let up. Examples of things she'll say is how my boobs look good now, but give it a few years and they'll be down to my knees. Ha! Or she'll show me comments on Reddit where people are discussing chest size preferences, and most are commenting how they much prefer a smaller bust over a large. Or just a general reminder of how work or men will never take me seriously because of my quote-unquote cartoon boobs. I know she's trying to have lighthearted fun, but it gets to me and I've told her a few times to drop it before. Now we're working from home. We all have daily video calls and meetings. Uniform is not necessary and we can wear what we like. A few days ago, it was extremely hot, and I was wearing a lighter, more revealing top than my usual baggy cover-ups. During this video call, in front of 6 other colleagues, Sarah starts vocalizing her thoughts on my appearance. "Holy crap, put those away. You look like you're in a porno. We don't need to see that first thing in the morning, haha." I was mortified. One other colleague laughed along, but the rest looked uncomfortable. I felt close to tears, made an excuse, and left the meeting. Sarah called me up half an hour later, asking me what was wrong, and I went off on her. Told her to go screw herself, and was sick of her constant jabs about my appearance. I went on a 10-minute tirade and hung up. Sarah has been off sick since that day, and we haven't spoken again. I'm wondering if I was too harsh, and maybe should call and apologize for my outburst. Was I the a-hole? Edit, I'm fuming. I just spoke with a colleague, John, who was part of the video call that day, and he told me that Sarah's been telling everyone that it's me that's been bullying her and making her feel insecure about her appearance. When she made those comments during the meeting, it was in retaliation to how I've made her feel. Apparently, I said she looks like a boy and called her flat-chested and ugly several times in the past. I have never and would never say this. I don't even understand this stupid boy body insult, because a small bust has always looked very beautiful and classy in my eyes. Anyway, John knows she's full of crap, and has suggested we speak with HR. The others will also back me up. I know most people here suggested I do this, and I wasn't sure at first, but screw it. I'm reporting her. I don't know why I ever considered her a friend, and she's frickin' mental and annoying. Edit 2, I now feel stupid for even asking the question, am I the a-hole? I thought I may have been at one point because the video call was amongst mostly workmates rather than clients, and I wasn't sure if my sensitivity towards my body image made me overreact to a joke that could have been innocent. I now realize it wasn't. I've also spoke to another coworker who is closer to Sarah, and she thinks Sarah may already have reported me to HR. She said the phone conversation we had after the meeting was filled with abusive bullying language and physical threats. It wasn't a pleasant phone call, but the worst thing I said was she go screw herself and that I don't want to speak to her again. The rest of the conversation was just rehashing all the comments she made about my body and how it made me feel. She also claimed that I have been making inappropriate jokes about her appearance and work ethic through the years, and this confrontation was a long time coming. She also suggested that I've convinced the guys in the office to take my side by being a flirt and a tease. Did I mention that I'm stupidly shy? My head is swimming, and I think I may be dealing with an actual psycho. I don't know how it's come to this ridiculous level of craziness. All I wanted to do was get on with my frickin' work in peace and get through this crappy time, but now I have to deal with this bullcrap. You're not an a-hole for standing up for yourself. Maybe you could have done without the 10-minute rant and kept a little more civil, but hey, what's done is done. The examples you gave didn't sound lighthearted to me, they actually sounded really passive-aggressive and downright insulting, especially if it's in front of other people. Frankly, she could be jealous. Just a thought, but no, I don't think you're an a-hole for standing up for yourself. She is jealous. My best friends have big moves, and I would never ever comment on them. My hobs are also big. She's lying. Men do love big boobs. She's a negative impact in your life. Girl, you're beautiful. Not the a-hole. Look, I understand the playful comment here and there about physical appearance between friends, but when it happens as frequently as you describe, it becomes a major issue, and especially so in a work environment. Yeah, I mean, I think we got this one pretty covered with those comments, right? I don't think they're the a-hole for this. She does sound like a genuine psycho, and a bit jealous, but people get like that in life all the time. In a work environment, I wouldn't know how to deal with this one, so good luck to the OP. I hope that you deal with this woman in your life. Posted by user Almond Chick. titled, "Am I the A-hole? Teacher left spoiled disruptive kid crying, I intervened." So I had a leadership position at a preschool. It's my responsibility to develop curriculum and train the teachers. Let's say I'm like the assistant manager of sorts. So I walked into a classroom to do quality control checks, make sure everyone is working, engaging with the kids, not on their cell phones, and I walked in on one of the students crying and begging the teacher to let her change her pants because she'd gotten something on them. The teacher said no and started ignoring the student while she was doing a head count. The student wasn't screaming or having a tantrum. She was just crying really hard, something she never does, and kept asking the teacher if she could please change her pants. I then walked up to the student to ask her what was wrong. She told me her mommy and daddy would be angry with her if they saw she'd gotten something on her pants. She also said that it was an accident and she didn't want to sit in dirty pants when she had a clean pair in her cubby. The teacher said the student intentionally got her pants dirty and did this all the time so she could change them. I then said okay and took the student to the sink to wash her face/talk to her. I told her we could try to get the thing off of her pants so that mommy and daddy could see that it was clean. She stopped crying and said, okay, let's try it. So I showed her how to wash her pants, and with soap, and had her try to get the stain out. We worked on this together for maybe 20 minutes before the stain started to look better. The stain didn't come out, but the kids stopped crying. I then explained to her how important it is to think about our actions and that if we want to keep things clean, we have to not do things to get them dirty. I gave her a hug and sent her back to the rest of the students. The next day, I found out the teacher went over my head to the manager, who was also a close friend, and told the manager that I undermined her. After I was informed of this, I went to the teacher directly and asked her why she felt that way. She said that that child is always acting really spoiled and that letting her get away was letting her win. I told her that is not our place to do things like that, and when we see a kid cry, we do have a responsibility to, at the very least, try and console them or help them understand. They're 3 to 5, by the way. I was honestly furious with the teacher at the time, and had I been that child's parent, I also would have been angry. For me, it's not that she didn't let her change her pants. I didn't let her change them either. It's more about how she let a child at that age be visibly upset, disturbed, and panicked because of it. Edit, this has been really interesting. Thank you everyone for sharing your personal stories. They've really helped me gain some perspective. Edit 2, I left this in a comment to help shed some light on what exactly I'm asking about. It's pretty clear I posted in the wrong sub, but you guys seem to be having fun, so I won't delete it. Yeah, I think I didn't explain the nuance enough in my original post. The moral dilemma isn't whether or not to console the kid, it's whether my role as lead teacher and person in charge of making sure teachers are doing their job requires me to intervene if I believe they're not doing their job. And then who am I to even say if they're doing their job? That's kind of what I was trying to get feedback on, but it's clear this was not the sub for that. Edit 3. Y'all are really making some leaps. So let me clear things up. I am an experienced teacher, both in years in the classroom and in education. The teacher in the room was 18 to 22 years old, and this was one of her first jobs. So I didn't get to be in charge because I'm friends with the boss. I have been at this job much longer than she's been. I am friends with the boss because we've worked together for a while. I did not know her at all when I got the job. And I've been in similar situations and asked an aide to take over while I dealt with the child, so that's how I would have handled it. Not the a-hole. I'm more surprised about the parents getting angry at 3 to 5-year-olds for getting their pants dirty. Who expects them to stay perfectly clean? Yeah, that was strange to me as well. I think they just get upset when it happens frequently. I hope so at least. Even as a small kid, I had severe anxiety about my parents getting angry at me over frivolous things. My mum still asks me why. Spoiler alert, I wasn't abused, and I have no clue. It could be early signs of anxiety, but I'm no professional. I saw in another comment you'd keep an eye out. I just wanted to add another perspective. You're doing amazing work. Yeah, I'm surprised everyone is jumping right to abuse. Obviously important to figure out if it is, but I have super supportive parents and always have. They never got angry, but worried like crazy, and that anxiety was passed on. Not the a-hole. You sound like a gem and exactly what a little one needs. Lol, I don't know her ratios, but where I worked, it was 24 3 to 5-year-olds to 2 teachers. Taking 20 minutes to talk through a tantrum makes OP look so kind, but it's not possible when you're supposed to be jointly supervising 20-something other preschoolers. Nothing like a supervisor being so proud of how they handled one child. Drop the ratios significantly, OP, and I'm sure the teacher would have the time to spend 20 minutes focusing on a single kid. This is exactly what I was thinking. I'm studying to be a preschool teacher, and they've emphasized to us on many occasions that when a child cries, you try and diffuse the situation, but you can't be distracted from all your other students. You can't just step away from the class for 20 minutes and leave them unsupervised. There is a lot of people saying that they're the a-hole or everyone sucks here in this situation. I kind of think those ones are really, really negative reviews of the teacher, and given the edits, I think we did get some more insight into this one. So I'm going to stick with my opinion. She doesn't suck here, and I think she did the right thing. But obviously, you guys are welcome to agree, disagree, whatever in the comments. Posted by user, yeah, no way, buddy. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-husband's soon-to-be ex-wife that I, and by extension my daughter, will have no relationship with her? I'll try to keep it short and sweet. My ex-husband cheated on me with his current wife. We divorced, they got together and had a baby. Well, it's some years past that point, and surprise, surprise, he's done it again. He and his wife are getting a divorce, and he's probably going to marry his new affair partner within the next 6 months if he follows that pattern. More power to him and his penis. I literally do not care what he does with his life anymore. But I was pretty shocked to discover that his wife reached out to me, basically crying about what happened, how she couldn't believe it, and how now that we're in the same camp, so to speak, we should maintain a relationship so our daughters can still be in each other's lives, and so we can commiserate. I'ma stop him right there. No thanks, honey. No, not in a million years. You can piss off. Yeah, I told her to take a hike, and that if our mutual ex wanted our daughters to hang out, I was more than happy to schedule his visitation at the same time as hers so the girls could be together with their father, but that there was no way I was setting up sleepovers and playdates with her. I'm not bitter about it anymore. I'm remarried, etc. But I just want nothing to do with her. Haven't since the affair. She about lost it, crying even more about how I would keep our girls apart because we both know ex-husband barely keeps up with his visitation, blah blah, and how he gets when he's in a new relationship. Yes, now we both know, but before only I knew, and she didn't seem too sympathetic about my end. She brought up how when she started up with my ex, she didn't know he was married, so I shouldn't hold it against her, and that he's the one who cheated, not her. But I really don't care about any of that. Anyway, she obviously called me an a-hole, though not in so many words. My sister is also saying I should think about my daughter's potential relationship with her half-sibling, but I think that should be on her father to orchestrate if it's important for him that his children bond and have a relationship. So lay it on me. Am I the a-hole? Edits. Popular questions. My daughter is 8, almost 9, and her daughter is close to 7, either about to turn or just turned. My daughter is completely indifferent to her half-sister on her dad's side for various reasons explained in the comments, but suffice to say the indifference isn't new. They don't and have never had a sisterly relationship according to my daughter. She does not have any specific desire to see her, but is presumably fine seeing her while they are both with their father. But if she did want to hang out with her, we would make it happen. Edits. Also asked about the state of schedule. My daughter sees her father, generously, 8 times a year, never more than a week, usually for a day or two. Between 2 to 4 of those are with his wife and daughter. This is likely to decrease slightly since he's in a new relationship. Assuming the same pattern continues, the girls will probably still see each other at least 3 times a year. A bit in the summer, for one fall holiday, and Father's Day. I have also encouraged her in the past to attend his daughter's birthday parties at least briefly. My daughter is very close with my other daughter and her stepfather, which likely contributes to her disinterest, but isn't something I can really control. I've never badmouthed her father, his wife, or other sister, but they just don't really sit prominently on our day-to-day radar. And I say fair enough. Lol, what the hell is she on? Not the a-hole by a mile. She was part of your ex-husband's cheating and comes crying to you when he continues the cycle? She has no shame. You said the exact thing I was thinking. Let them visit, but with their dad. You have no obligation to set up visitation between half-siblings. You know the saying, if he'll do it for you, he'll do it to you? Well, now she does too. Not the a-hole. Or as Granny says, when a man marries his mistress, he creates a vacancy. Edit, Granny says hello. She must have read it in a book and disliked it so much she told me. She is an avid reader and has read 9 books in the past 3 weeks. 4 trashy novels, 2 biographies of Empress Sissy, a John Grisham, and another mystery. That's gold. That's so incredibly amazing. Your granny's a gangster. And that's absolutely what happened in this situation. He was just waiting for the next one to come along. Oh god, that's so trashy. Not the a-hole for what you said to the woman. It is up to their father or paternal grandparents to facilitate that relationship, unless your daughter requests your help with it. Why is this all about whose job it is to facilitate the relationship? A parent's job is to care for their child and do everything in their power to give them a good life. Period. If one parent doesn't fulfill a parental obligation, that does not just absolve the other parent. You don't just say, oh, well, guess my kid's gonna grow up X because their father and mother didn't do Y. I have a half-sibling. We saw each other at birthdays and holidays, and we lived together for some time, but we did not bond enough to have a strong relationship as adults. And it makes me bloody sad. It's a lot harder to bond as siblings as adults. And I guarantee you, an 8-year-old has absolutely no concept of how the relationship he has with her sister while she grows up will affect their relationship as adults. In my case, it really wasn't something our parents had control over, but OP does. Just consider how it could affect her in the future. Maybe they wouldn't ever come close, but I think they should at least be given the opportunity, and regardless of whose responsibility it should be to do what. The only thing we truly have control over is our own actions. And sometimes, if we want to do right by others, we have to do things that aren't completely fair to us or equal. That's just life. Additionally, I want to mention that relationships we have early in life form how we create and maintain relationships through adulthood. I'm not sure what message this sends about how we treat the people in our lives, even if we find them annoying sometimes or don't love spending time with them. I think if we only spent time with people we absolutely loved spending time with, then we'd be pretty freaking lonely. Speaking from experience. I don't know, just something to consider. Why do these responses have to personally target us, man? What the hell? I never thought of it like that. I never thought that the way you maintain relationships as a kid carries on to adulthood, but it makes a lot of sense. What? It's like exposing yourself. I don't know how I feel about this one. I feel like it's really nuanced and such a disgusting thing to do. And she's absolutely not the a-hole for cutting off that woman. Like, come on, you see the cheating in front of your eyes. You're like, oh, I screwed her over. I'm going to make things better now. No, shut up. Move along, sis. Get out of my life. That's all I have to say. Posted by Ecstatic Traffic 7. Titled, Am I the a-hole for no longer wanting to help a disabled neighbor? I, 37 female, have a disabled neighbor, 30 female, who I have lived near for about 7 years. We have hung out here and there over the years, but we are not super close. She lives alone and has no family nearby. She has a disability that I don't know much about, which makes it impossible to lift anything at all from the ground, and limited range of motion with her arms. Though I do see her doing work with her hands, I do not understand what she can and cannot do. A few years ago, she started texting me and my husband, 47 male, for small to medium favors, like opening a window or putting her sleep apnea machine together. I go over and help. She has an aide who calls in frequently. Recently, she was unable to get her groceries delivered at a time when her aide could be there, so she asked if I would come over and do it. Also, she began having food delivered that people were leaving on the ground, and she was texting multiple times a week for someone to come over and place it on a table near the door so she can lift it. One day recently, she asked for help and I ended up taking out lots of trash and doing a load of laundry, which I felt crossed the line. The grocery delivery slots are severely limited due to the virus, and she's asked 6 weeks in a row for helping putting them away. This week, she sent me a message asking if I would agree to put her groceries away permanently. I pushed back, saying that this was a temporary favor that I would expect is going to end once the schedules align between the grocery company and her home health aide. She wrote me back and said that she was phasing out the aides in hope of starting a group of people who could exchange labor for each other. She's asking that I join and commit to putting the groceries away sometimes, being a backup for other chores when people cannot do them, and walk her dog once a week. After expressing my boundaries with favors, I am a little taken aback by her doubling down. The neighbor often suggests in text that she can offer things in return for the help. She did give me flowers once and a bottle of wine another time. She does say thank you. Am I the a-hole for wanting to tell her that I cannot help at all? I am a full-time public school teacher, and it's a job that breeds compassion burnout as is. I do not get joy out of helping her. I find these requests annoying, and I do not understand why she doesn't try to pitch in with the groceries in some small ways that are within inability, rather than standing around while I put the groceries away for 30 minutes or longer. Oftentimes, the requests for favors have come while I'm in bed, and I have to get dressed or say no, to which I feel she has bristled slightly when told no. I feel bad knowing that she has these limitations, but my mindset says that she should move to a smaller apartment, get rid of the dog, and/or make lifestyle changes to accommodate the cost for an aide, rather than replace that labor with friends and neighbors. Am I being ableist? Not the a-hole. It's a sad situation, but you can't become her unpaid aide. Asking for a favor once in a while is absolutely fine, but if your pitching in gets to the point where she can let her aide go, then yeah, she's crossed all boundaries. You are not free labor. You aren't a friend or family. I'm not saying don't shovel her driveway if you have time during the winter, or put her trash can back from the street if it's still out when you do yours, but these things are kindnesses. They are not a job. I'm not sure what's going on with her that makes her want to get rid of an aide. Maybe it's financial, who knows? But a polite, firm no is in order. I'm sorry, once quarantine is over, my husband and I will be back to our very hectic lives, and I'm afraid that we don't have regular schedules that we can commit to a regular thing. We're happy to help for now, but going forward our schedule isn't reliable. Or, leave out that last sentence if you are not happy to help out for now. It also makes me wonder if the aide wasn't even an aide all along. Maybe just some sucker that she duped into labor trading, especially since the aide calls off a lot, or whatever. Maybe that person finally told her they're no longer willing to do her chores, and she's positioning OP to be the new aide. Whatever the case is, it's really weird and she sounds like she's going to require firm boundaries immediately. Not the a-hole. I find it very confusing that she decided to start a labor trade, or whatever, without consulting you, and basically volunteering you for it. Like, why would she assume she could just phase out her aide, and you'd just take over everything for free? You've already been very kind helping her with frequent tasks. It would be one thing if it was only occasionally, or something small like bringing her mail to her door, but this is too much. Also, it doesn't sound like she mentioned anything about what OP would get in trade. If I say that I'm starting a gift trade, and I'm going to need your watch, that's, not a trade. Yeah, that's what jumped out at me. She asked OP to put away her groceries sometimes, walk her dog once a week, and be back up for other chores. That's a lot. If she wants to call this an exchange, she should be immediately describing exactly what she'll be doing in exchange for all of this. Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one to me. I don't know what I would do in this situation. It's honestly just a hard one, but I think this neighbor needs to get proper aides in her life and make use of government help schemes where they are available. I don't think you can rely on strangers, neighbors, or whatever for this scheme. It just seems unreasonable, and she should know that. Am I the a-hole for calling out my sister after she bought my daughter a food scale? Just for some background, my family is a bit larger. We are all pretty healthy people, but we are not naturally thin. Both of my parents are bigger, I'm a bit bigger, and growing up my sister was too. Now, my sister works hard to fight being a bigger. She eats like a rabbit and does pretty crazy workouts. People tend to look up to her for keeping her weight down and getting healthy, but from my perspective, she is constantly stressing herself out to maintain this appearance with all of the running, etc. My daughter turned 14 a couple months ago, and has been expressing distaste about her body for a while. She's a bit chubby like myself. It makes me sad, but I'm trying to teach her to love herself for who she is. I know that my words haven't gotten through to her, as she has been going to my sister for advice. First was the at-home exercises and running. It is difficult to watch her beat herself up with these exercises. She claims to enjoy them, but I'm sure she wouldn't do them if she didn't want to be skinny like my sister. Then she started regularly complaining about the food that I prepare. I'm not a huge vegetable person, and neither is anybody else in our family. I'm not going to waste my money on it. It has led to many arguments between us. The final straw was when I opened up a package that turned out to be a food scale for my daughter. My sister bought it for her. My daughter told me that since I will continue to make her unhealthy food, her aunt told her to weigh it out so she doesn't eat too much. I immediately confronted my sister about it. She is trying to push her lifestyle habits onto my daughter. I'm trying to teach her to love herself, not spend mental energy fighting biology. She tried to blame me for making my daughter unhealthy in the first place. She claims to be trying to help. Just because my daughter can't run a mile and do the difficult exercises she does to maintain her weight, doesn't mean she's not healthy. I hung up with my sister and went to post to Facebook about her buying my daughter a scale and encouraging her to weigh her food. People look up to her, and I think everyone should know that she pushes young women to hate their bodies. My post received a lot of criticism, and some people even think I'm an a-hole for trying to tarnish my sister's image and for refusing to let my daughter try to lose weight. From my perspective, I'm just trying to spread awareness about what she's doing. Someone recommended that I post here. Am I the a-hole for telling everyone that my sister got my daughter a food scale, or is she for getting her one in the first place? Just to respond to everyone, we are not obese. We're just a bit tall and a bit chubby. Maybe a little bit overweight. We may not run and stuff, but we do other activities that we enjoy, like gardening, swimming, walking, etc. You don't need to be able to run to be healthy. This just sounds like satire, this whole post. You're the a-hole. Jesus Christ, prepare a vegetable. You're a mother. Act like a mother. Don't use your daughter's body to push agenda that makes you feel better. Also, I don't buy it for a second that you guys are naturally chunky when you refuse to waste money on vegetables. I cannot even imagine refusing to let a child eat vegetables. Also, running is not torture, and it's not just to lose weight. I run because it gives me more energy and I like doing it. Millions of people do it as a hobby. Let her do healthy things. You're the a-hole. Opie's daughter can barely exercise or run a mile. Poor kiddo. Those are basics that make childhood fun. I was always overweight as a child, and my mom was really susceptible to pseudoscience. I gained weight because I wasn't eating enough, obviously. Haven't you heard of starvation mode? Lamau, it can't be that I was eating already 3 times too much, but even in her naivety, she at least tried to help me. OP is so horrible to her daughter, I'm pretty sure what she's doing is abuse. You don't get to weigh in. Your daughter is trying to improve her health, her mobility, and her quality of life. She is certainly being more mature about her weight issues than you are. I remember 150 pounds ago when I was not a vegetable person. It's a flabby excuse for rolling over and giving up on yourself. You should be happy your daughter isn't following in your footsteps. You're the a-hole. Edit. Thanks for all the recipe ideas. Keep 'em coming both for me and for everyone trying to eat better. And thanks for working on yourselves too. Together we can make a happier, healthier world. As a person trying to lose weight who hates vegetables, do you have any suggestion on how to make them easier to get down? Right now, I'm doing vitamins and trying to mix in veggies with other things, but I can't get over certain tastes or consistency. For me, it was all about the preparation. When you treat vegetables like an afterthought and toss them in the microwave, or boil them into a paste, of course they're going to taste bad. I used to hate squash and sweet potatoes, until I stopped microwaving them like my folks used to, and discovered the power of roasting things. It's all in the prep. If you prep veggies in the styles that you like other foods, example, if you like roasted chicken, try roasting veggies. You may realize that you don't hate the taste as much as you think. Back to squash, bane of my childhood. Turns out squash and apple soup is a bowl full of autumn that I can't get enough of. Vegetarians have been at this for decades, and they are damn good at making a vegetable sing. I learned a lot from a vegetarian resources, and now I don't bother buying meat at all because I can get deep flavors for cheap out of produce. Even if you have no interest in going veggie, I didn't at first, and I still don't think I'm a vegetarian because I'd still cave in front of a plate of Nashville hot chicken. Looking into vegetarian iterations of your favorite foods and preparing veggie as you like to prepare other things did wonders for me. Good luck, and good on you for taking a challenge on. Posted by user AnonAhole2, titled, Am I the a-hole for calling out of work? Since my last post got so much activity and my husband agrees with me, I want to know if you think I'm the a-hole here. I planned my first ultrasound for a Wednesday last week, and it was amazing. We got to hear our baby's heartbeat, and we will never forget that moment. Unfortunately, I had to call off work to take the whole day off and be able to see my baby. A co-worker of mine's wife was having some pretty minor surgery, and so I got overruled on the calendar for the day off because his was more important. My boss said I could just use my ultrasound as my lunch hour, but I wanted to take the day to embrace that first connection as a family. So I called out of work that day, and apparently it left us very short staff and unable to perform surgeries until my co-worker had left his wife resting at home and came in. My husband agrees that we aren't a-holes, that we deserve to bask in that bliss, but my whole office is angry with me and said it's definitely an a-hole move. Nobody told my co-worker he was being forced to come in, he volunteered. But tell me, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit to add that we are vet techs, in case that helps. You're the a-hole. You think that basking in the bliss of your ultrasound is more important than your co-worker supporting his wife through surgery, so instead you just dumped everything on your co-workers and screwed up the schedule for the veterinary practices surgeries, which will have affected all of the patients and their owners. God, you're lucky you're pregnant, because it makes it harder to fire you, and that is the kind of crap you deserve to get fired for. Edit, holy hell, I've just realized you're the same a-hole who said her sister isn't a real mother because she didn't give birth to her kid. Are you trying to win an award for being the worst person on the internet today? Yeah, unbelievable. She needs to just stop at this point because she's making herself look worse and worse. I shudder at what nonsense her third post will spew. You're the a-hole solidly now. You expected someone to reschedule surgery so that you could bask in the glory of an ultrasound all day. Coming from a pregnant woman, you're an a-hole, troll, and reading your other post, potentially just an awful person. It just occurred to me, I think this woman might be getting off on having us call her an a-hole. I mean, read the top of her post. Sounds like a little twisted. Are we feeding the troll? Yeah, this one sounds like a troll. I mean, that last story she posted was absolutely terrible, and it kind of sounded fantasy, so I think we're feeding the delusion here. Next story. Posted by user SpoiledKid9001, titled, Am I the a-hole for giving my son a better life and spoiling him more than his siblings will ever get to be? Brief background. About 9.5 years ago, my wife cheated on me, got pregnant, and left me for him. Courts gave them custody of our son because single dad versus family. I've since gotten remarried and had a couple of kids, 7 and 5.5. Ex and her new man have also had 2 more kids. Wife and I now both work as engineers and have damn good salaries, to put it lightly. Ex and new husband haven't ever done particularly well. Ex-wife didn't want me sending my son lavish gifts or taking him on the family vacations, so her other siblings wouldn't get too jealous and build resentments towards him. Her words. Meanwhile, he was understandably, I feel, upset. He wasn't getting as nice a life as my other kids were as he got older. He asked to come live with me. I said yes, I'd love to have him. Ex-wife said no. Thank God the court sided with what my son wanted. Since moving in, everything has gone fairly smoothly for us. My younger kids love having their big brother around all the time, and he loves them. We still go on our vacations every January, though had I known how bad Rona was back then, I'd probably have held off this year. For his 16th birthday, he got a nice used Buick that he wanted. Since then, crap's hit the fan with his mum and my ex though. She was ticked how much he's getting and getting to do. Keeps texting and calling both of us about how his younger siblings will never be able to get all he has, and it's not fair, and now her kids are upset, and how I'm a horrible dad for forcing his siblings to resent us. I finally told her I don't care. I want my kids to have a good life, and if she wants an adulterer, hers would have a better life too. Did I go too far there? Not the a-hole. They're not your kids, and no one is forcing them to be resentful except her. Keep being a good dad to all your kids and don't worry about it. Imagine how much resentment the boy would build up if OP gave in and treated him to less than his other kids. The son would resent his paternal half-siblings for getting more than him and his mother for demanding it, his father for giving in, and his maternal half-siblings for being the root of the problem. And all of that so the ex's precious babies don't feel bad because they don't get as much as OP's son. Exactly. This is exactly what would happen, and this guy is 100% not the a-hole. My older brother just closed on his first house. I'm really happy for him, but it's pretty unlikely with where I live, and what I do, that I'll be able to do the same by the time I'm his age. I just won't be able to have the same life he has. This doesn't mean that the solution is for him to give up on his house dreams. You don't create equality by forcing people to have less so others don't feel bad. Everyone ends up worse off that way. If you feel bad, you can create more good by thinking of little things he can share with the rest of his family. Maybe a video game he can play with everyone else, or nice snacks that he can share. Or you can do nothing at all. It isn't your job to keep the other kids from envying your son, it's your ex-wife's job to teach her kids that they can have more too by working hard and getting good jobs, not the a-hole. I love this. It's not about what hand you're dealt, it's about what you do with it. OP is the dealer, Mum is the teacher. OP can be a teacher too, and this is a great example of how. OP would not be an a-hole for not doing this, but it's a nice idea. Posted by user Throwaway9421, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my daughter to make me whipped coffee? I, male 58, have a daughter, 23 female, who is currently living with me. She was staying at her mum's for the past 2 months due to the global events, but now that is not as severe, I insisted that she come back and stay with me because I missed her, and I have this big house to myself. She moved back last week. My daughter is a law student, and just started a summer job at a firm, doing remote work. So she locks herself in her room for hours at a time, and only comes out to eat or go to the store for groceries. Yesterday, on Sunday, I was chatting with her about the new coffee trend, whipped coffee. You've probably seen it. She said she had made some weeks ago for her and her mum after seeing it online. I asked her if she could make some for me, and she said sure, maybe this week when she finished most of her work. Well, today, on Monday, I woke up and waited for the whipped coffee, but my daughter never came out of her room. I waited until like 11 a.m., and then I went into her room and asked her where my coffee was. She snapped at me that she was in a training session for her new job and that her microphone was on because she was about to ask a question, so everyone heard me come in. I waited until she asked her question, muted herself, and then I asked her about the coffee again. She said she was busy and that she would make some later. I said I drank my coffee in the morning and that I had been waiting patiently. She then copped a major attitude with me and told me that I was interrupting her work. I told her to lose the attitude and learn to prioritize her promises to people. She then got exasperated and basically yelled at me to get out of her room. I did, and I texted her a little while ago that her and I need to have a major conversation about attitude, considering I don't ask her for rent and I'm fine with her working summers only. She hasn't responded. I get that people may think I was harsh on her, but my daughter and I have a rocky relationship, and I was hoping that we could bond over making some of this delicious whipped coffee I had been seeing everywhere. She made it for her mum, so I know she can do it. I made myself French press coffee, but I really wanted to try the whipped coffee. Am I the a-hole for asking her to make me one when she said that she would? This just sounds so fake. No normal person writes this, but I'm gonna read the comments anyway. You're the a-hole. This cannot be real. You casually asked if she would make you coffee, and she casually responded, maybe. She did not promise you anything, and your desire to have a stupid whipped coffee is not more important than her law work. Jesus Christ, dude. Lol, she said maybe this week after I finished my work, and he just sat down on a Monday morning waiting for his coffee. Not sure how OP's job is, but I generally haven't finished my work for the week by Monday morning. Is this for real? So you basically strong-armed her into coming to live with you, then pat yourself on the back for not charging her rent? You interrupt her at work because you're whining that you don't have coffee? Google the damn recipe and make it yourself. You're a grown-ass man, not a child. You don't bond with someone by being a petulant whiner, forcing them to do things while embarrassing them at work. You're the a-hole. Also, a fun part was when he was like, I'm okay with her only working summers. Like, buddy, do you know how law school works? Of course she only works summers. You're the a-hole. Posted by user Northern Lights UP. Titled, Am I the a-hole for spending the day on a call on my girlfriend's birthday? So my best friend moved to the UK 5 years ago for studies and work. Since we hadn't seen each other for a while, last year he said he was going to come over, meet up with our old friendship group, which is 5 guys in total, and we would go on a young guys trip before he returned to the UK. I met my girlfriend earlier this year, and her birthday coincidentally falls on the same day as the guy trip was supposed to start. For obvious reasons, he can't come anymore and just decided to do a group video call, catch up, then play games online. Yesterday was the day, so I woke up early and made my girlfriend breakfast in bed, gave the gift, and watched a movie with her. When the time came, I asked my girlfriend if she was okay with this, and she said it was fine, so I did it. It was a lot of fun catching up with the guys and playing against a bunch of random people online together. The call ended at around 9, and I went back to the bedroom to chill with my girlfriend, but she was already asleep, so I went to bed as well. This morning though, she was extremely cold, and didn't want to talk until I pushed it out of her. She says I was being an a-hole for ignoring her on her big day, even though she said it was fine. Besides that, the plans were set before we started dating, and I would have missed the whole thing, but at least this way I had the time to make her feel special in the morning. Am I the a-hole? I'm leaning towards you're the a-hole, because let's be real here. An all-day call was probably not what she was expecting, and breakfast is a piddly freaking expenditure of time and effort. You should have bailed on the call in time to spend some of her birthday with her, and at least have dinner. This was a failure in communication and expectation. When she said she was fine with the call, I imagined she thought it would last a couple of hours, not all day. Besides, if it was all decided a while ago, why not tell her sooner and maybe decide on another day to celebrate either properly with her or spend a day with friends? You're the a-hole. You could have done a telehangout any time. Now, if you had met in person, then sure, that's acceptable. But a video call all day on her birthday? Yeah, you're the a-hole. If they're still strictly quarantining, it means she kinda spent the day alone, hearing him laughing for 8 hours in the next room, waiting for it to end. But it never ends. So it must have been a very lonely day for her. God, that's horrible. I would have spent half the day crying if I spent my birthday waiting for my boyfriend to spend time with me, but felt like I couldn't interrupt his spontaneous friendship time. Imagine feeling like you're not a priority even on your birthday. I wonder if this is isolated. Definitely not. I've heard of much worse than this happening, even in like normal functioning relationships. Some young men are so blind and stupid. That's not to say that I'm not, but it's just baffling. Posted by user RXRRR, titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my fiance's relationship with her brother unhealthy? Our fight began because of her brother. He's 3 years older than her. The first issue I noticed is the random presents he sends her for no reason at all. It's not her birthday, it isn't a holiday. For example, just last week, he told her to be on the lookout in the mail for some pea coat that he bought her. He sent her a link, which she didn't bother to check. But I did, and I saw that it's a $500 present. Then I noticed that he sends her a gift card to fast food places and restaurants at random too. Before quarantine, we'd go out and eat, and she'd pull out some gift card and cover the bill. This admittedly hurt my ego, especially on date nights. It felt like her brother was funding our dates. I've actually spoken to his wife about it. Let's call her Jennifer. Jennifer told me that she found it a bit strange at first too, but that she doesn't see anything wrong with it now. She says that it's because they're extremely family-oriented. Jennifer says that her husband still sees my fiancé like the little girl who used to follow him around. But I still felt dejected even after speaking with Jennifer. I feel like I can't compete with him. My fiancé and I live together, but because we're both students, we don't have that much free cash to spend on things we don't need. So on her birthday, I feel even worse as I'll buy her something small, but her brother goes out and buys her something expensive. Everywhere I look in our apartment, there is something from him. The expensive headphones, the expensive clothes. I confronted her not too long ago about it. She was baffled and then got angry. I brought up the gift cards and she scolded me for it. She claims that when she was a teenager/undergraduate, she'd get so stressed out that she'd forget to eat. And that it was her brother who went out of his way to make sure she'd eaten that day. She doesn't understand why it bothers me, because we're getting free food. Then I brought up the random gifts, and she got angrier and asked me why do I care so much about how her brother spends his money. Apparently he's a rising star in his company, and has been getting salary raises like crazy. Another thing she felt the need to shove in my face. I told her that her relationship with her brother isn't normal. This is where crap hits the fan. She disinvited me from his birthday in late June. She told me to sort out my issues, and then maybe I could come. I told her she was being unreasonable, and this is when she tells me that maybe we should wait longer till we get married. Ooh. Our original plan was to start planning our wedding as soon as the whole coronavirus situation passed, but now she's dangling our marriage above my head. She says that if I can't accept her family, then she doesn't think we're going to work out. I think she's being insane for doing this just because of her brother. She says that this isn't about her brother. Edit. I should mention that while he showers my fiancé with expensive gifts, he refused to help out his younger brother who was about to go homeless. Ooh, that's saucy. You're the a-hole. She's not dangling your marriage, she is genuinely worried about marrying you, as she should be. You're the a-hole. Your fiancé, maybe ex soon, sounds rad. How awesome that she comes from a family that shares resources and cares about each other. If only we could all be so lucky to have a sibling who cares enough to send gift cards so that we eat. You need to seek some counseling about either family issues and/or insecurity. You will be lucky if you end up joining this family. You're the a-hole. I get my sister random presents all the time, and it's because I love her, not to undermine her boyfriend's self-esteem. Until today, I wasn't even aware someone could take it in the wrong way. Also, look up love languages. Some people show love through gifts. I do to some extent. You're the a-hole. This is coming off like you're intimidated by your fiancé's older brother. You seem jealous too, and like you're trying to compete with her brother. He probably just loves her and wants to do nice things for her. She's his little sister. I don't see anything wrong with their relationship from what you've described. I can see why she's having second thoughts about the marriage too, because it seems like you want to ruin her relationship with her brother. I think it's more that OP feels as though he can't give his girlfriend as much as he'd like to, and having her brother shower her with gifts keeps reminding him of that. And yeah, that's totally fine to feel, but he should be dealing with those feelings. The problem here is his insecurity, not his girlfriend's relationship with her brother. Yeah, absolutely OP is the a-hole in this situation. That's not okay. Just because someone else can shower you with gifts, why are you letting your insecurities get in the way of you? You show such a weak mentality complaining about that. If I can't help you, no one else can. Grrr. Stupid. Toxic. Get him out of here. Posted by user 464839337. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I think that my sister is more talented than her? What? See what I mean? How stupid are some people? So, my wife and I have been arguing about this for over a week, and I feel bad for hurting her feelings, but I'm not sure I'm in the wrong here. My wife, 25, does art and graphic design. My 19-year-old sister also does art. My best friend hit me up and told me that he had talked to my wife about doing some artwork and posters for his band. He liked some of her stuff on Instagram and thought it would be cool to hire someone local. His band has a pretty decent following, they tour, etc. He was expressing some frustration to me about the collaboration between he and my wife. He didn't insult her, but he wasn't happy with the results and didn't know how to talk to her about it. After chatting with him for a bit though, and getting a feel about what his new music was about, I started talking up my sister and her work. It's a bit more creative, raw, etc. More what he was looking for. He was excited to work with her after I showed him some of her stuff. She's a fan of his music. I set them up, and he is paying her a decent amount of money, along with giving her some good exposure. I told him that I would talk to my wife about her being off the project for him, and he still paid her for the work that she did. Then I talked to my wife about her being off the project, and she got upset. I told her that my friend had no hard feelings, and just wanted a different art style. She ended up talking to my friend about it, and he told my wife that I recommended my sister to him, and he really liked her style. He thought that what they were coming up with was a better fit. My wife got super upset with me upon hearing that I recommended my sister over her. She called me unsupportive and accused me of trying to sabotage her so that she doesn't get more exposure. I tried to make her understand that her collaboration with my friend wasn't working out anyways, and I was just trying to secure a very good opportunity for my sister, who I know is extremely talented and could do the job. She says that I should have tried to mend the issues so that she could still complete the project and drive more traffic to her. I told her that the problem was an issue of style. He didn't want such commercial-looking art, he wanted something more creative like my sister was offering. This made her more angry. She accused me of calling her uncreative and undeserving of the opportunity. I said that I thought that the opportunity should go to a talented person that is a good fit. She said, "So your sister's more talented than me?" Trying to continue the argument. I said, "You know what? Yes. And my wife has been sleeping in the guest room ever since." Jeez, those are fighting words. I've tried to talk to my family about this, but everyone seems pretty split about whether or not I'm in the wrong here. I know it may hurt her feelings, but I do think my sister is more talented. Am I the a-hole for saying it out loud? You're the a-hole. Mostly for the shocked Pikachu face you likely made after you said that. How did you expect that to be received? First off, you went behind your wife's back to benefit your friend. That was the first a-hole moment. The second he was complaining about your wife's craft, you should have shut it down and let him know that you're not your wife's agent/customer service/mediator/nothing. You're her husband, and if he has a work issue, take it up with management. Second, you aren't your sister's agent, customer service, and talent scout, and even if you were, how dare you do it to the detriment of your wife? Third, if your friend who says your wife's work just doesn't mesh wasn't aware what type of work your wife produces, is that the fault of your wife? No, it's his failure. He should have reached out to her and expressed his concerns, not you. Fourth, maybe your wife would be as talented if she got the same level of support and appreciation that you have for your sister. Hopefully that stings you a bit and makes you go give the apology you should have already given by now. Spot on. Although it does sound like the wife is talented, but perhaps not as good of a fit for this project. This is where I'm conflicted. Yes, he and his wife should be a team who have each other's backs, but also people value friends and family different, and it's obvious OP has them on a similar level. On one hand, yes, he should not tolerate bad-mouthing of any kind when it comes to his wife. He should have tried harder to shine her in a better light. Talk to her about trying a different style and such, since it would be great to help her work to be more versatile. But on the other hand, his friend should have expressed his displeasure with his client, not his client's partner. So that's not really on OP, and I can't really fault him for promoting his sister. His wife already has a business and probably has loyal and repeat customers, whereas his younger sister is barely starting out, and he's just looking out for her, and it seems like the friend and sister really do get along better and have a better work relationship than his wife. However, what makes him the extreme a-hole is the line, "For argument's sake I said, you know what? Yes." He admits to saying it purely to keep the argument going, not even in the heat of the moment, in which I could kind of give him a pass, because extreme emotions and all that. But, outright because I wanted to hurt my wife. Yeah, that's a dick move. If he had said, "I'm so sorry, honey, I wasn't thinking," he explained an art style that sounded exactly like my sister, and I just blurted it out. And the next thing I knew, I had already given him her contact information with the mindset of helping out my friend instead of the mindset of backing up my wife, and not said his sister was a better artist, then he wouldn't be the ass. I could even excuse "she's better than you in this specific style" if not said for that sake of the argument. Jesus, who feels like they're in a debating class after this? I think everything that should have been said has been said by now, so I'm gonna pass you guys to outro Marky. I want to know what you guys think of these ones though. Who's the a-hole here? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop telling people that she has my illness to gain sympathy for being overweight? I, 22 female, have an older sister, 25 female. My sister is very sensitive about everything. When we were young, if I made the smallest comment like, "I prefer pink over blue," it would make her cry because she thought I was aiming at her by saying it. My parents would always ask me to apologize to her since she's sensitive and I'm emotionally stronger than her. My parents never controlled my sister's diet growing up, letting her have what she wants since they found it too difficult to control her. I was skinny as a stick when I was a kid, so even though my family has a long history of thyroid disease, my parents didn't think there was an issue with me. However, my sister has been overweight the majority of her life, so my parents thought she would be the one with the thyroid issues. They took us to an endocrinologist when I was 10. I got a diagnosis for Hashimoto's thyroiditis, while my sister didn't, and instead got told to exercise and watch her diet. I got hypothyroidism due to Hashimoto's, and have been on medication ever since. My sister and I moved back in with our parents due to what's happening these days. I leave my medication in a cabinet in the kitchen, so I know I won't take it unless I have to actually get out of bed to do so. Apparently, I left a box before I moved out of my parents' house when I was a teen, and one of her friends saw it while they were over and asked if it was hers. My sister told them that it was, and that's why she was overweight. The box has Euthyrox written on it in big bold letters, with a picture of thyroid glands next to it. So yeah, pretty obvious it was meant for a thyroid condition. She's held up this farce for almost 4 years. I only figured it out when I saw her take a box of it out of my bag one day. I confronted her on it, and she starts crying, telling me that she just didn't want anyone to be mean to her because she's fat. She also says that it's not fair that the one with the normal weight gets the thyroid disease. I'm just staring at her, gobsmacked. She is complaining that she doesn't have an autoimmune condition. I tell her to knock it off, and that she can't lie to get sympathy from people. My parents talk to me later, and they say that I was too harsh calling her a liar, and she probably needs a therapist or something. And the classic, I should apologize since I'm more mature. They even tell me that they were hoping that she was the one with the thyroid issues as a child, so that they could justify her weight gain. I ask them, so you wanted your daughter to be sick instead of admitting that it was your fault because you bought her McDonald's whenever she wanted it, and never made her exercise? Now they're mad at me too. Definitely NTA, and what the hell did I just read? Your sister is jealous of your thyroid disease because it would justify her being overweight? Oh yeah, this is some out-of-body type experience crap for me too. Point out that a thyroid condition doesn't give you a pass for being overweight. The vast majority of people with a thyroid condition that are overweight would be overweight without it. It can make it more difficult, yeah, but it's not a guarantee. Not necessarily. I gained a ridiculous amount of weight by living the same lifestyle I did before diagnosis, 30 plus pounds, and as soon as my meds were properly evened out, all the weight just fell off. It's definitely a side effect, although the treatment typically helps. Not the a-hole. Your sister sounds like a self-absorbed narcissist, who's pushing her unwillingness to get into shape and lose some weight onto you. She is toxic and manipulative, and sounds like the parents enabled this behavior 100%. Enablement and disillusionment. Not the a-hole. You're absolutely right here. I can't believe she'd actually try to steal your meds from you. She needs to see a therapist to deal with the hypersensitivity, and your parents can't continue to encourage and reinforce it, which sounds like they've done so since childhood. Take care. I hope everything works out. I hope she wasn't stealing them to take them, but rather to make a social media post or something. Still not right, but at least that's just obnoxious and not potentially dangerous to OP. Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone's assumptions here. NTA, definitely not the a-hole. So dangerous to be putting her in that situation if you are taking the medications, and you're just being an a-hole in general if you're pushing it. I want to get thyroid disease, I want a justification. No, you got a mental illness, buddy. Posted by user TDog945, titled, Am I the a-hole? Suing my neighbor after she sprayed weedicide on my lawn. Caught my neighbor spraying weedicide on my lawn in my fenced-in backyard because she said she was sick of all the weeds and thought she was doing me a solid. 1. I like dandelions. They're good for the bees. 2. I have pet rabbits, dogs, cats, and a tortoise that I like to roam the yard, and all of them eat or at least nibble and lick the grass, so it's literally poisoning my pets. So anyway, I kick her the hell out and take all my pets inside. Now, 2 of my rabbits are dead, and another is in critical condition. I'll never be able to let my pets outside again to eat the grass, because weedicides take forever to go away, because it can sit in soil for who knows how long, and I'm worried that the dogs and cats might end up having a reaction too, since they also nibble the grass. Call me overprotective or overcautious, I don't care, I love my animals. So I'm suing her for damage to my property because it is now unusable for my animals, veterinary bills, and emotional damage due to the death of my 2 rabbits. I'm also trying to get the cops to pursue a case of animal abuse, or at minimum criminal damage, because she did basically poison my animals, but I doubt anything will come from it because I have to prove ill intent, but they are pursuing her for criminal trespass. She's a Karen. I think she deserves it for thinking she had any right to be on my property at all, and especially because it's killed my pets. And now I don't know what to do about my lawn, because I'm not risking another animal's life by letting them out, or at least unsupervised for at least a year. However, my parents and my girlfriend think I'm being unnecessarily cruel because it was an accident, and she thought she was just being a good neighbor, and that I'm making it to be a bigger deal than it is, and should just ask for her to pay my vet bills. Edit. Info. She has asked me about the weeds before. I don't remember it verbatim. Basically, the conversation was along the lines of, Hey, I see you have a lot of dandelions and weeds. Have you noticed that too? Yep, I enjoy the look of a natural lawn. Something about my new car. The end. Since she has a kid that she always asks can come over to play with my rabbits, I assumed she knew that they ate them if she was looking over my fence that often, and she'd noticed the dandelions were only ever flowering in 1/4 of the lawn at a time, because my rabbits got cycled in a way that most of the lawn was mostly weed-free, while the part they couldn't get to that week would be sprouting. Edit again, thanks for the messages, guys. I'm taking the advice and getting a security camera and a padlock for the fence. Also, I am in fact getting a necropsy done. Edit. I have talked to her, told her that my rabbits died after the fact and there was staining on their pen. She said, it's weedicide, not pesticide, they were probably just sick. Edit. Last edit, this is blowing up too much, I gotta walk away, sorry if I didn't answer your question. But my rabbits were actually outside when she did this, and there was a stain on their pen. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure they got a direct spray. Oh my, that just makes it so much worse. What the hell? I was gonna say before, like, maybe she doesn't know. That's murder! At that point, if they got directly sprayed, that's murder! She murdered those animals! As if that spray wasn't there before, and there's a direct one on the animals. She's the a-hole in this situation. She's the a-hole, take her to court, drag her to whatever court it takes. That's messed up. No, you can't just spray rabbits with weedicide and think, oh yeah, it's cool, yeah, they're just gonna get rid of the weeds? Oh, this has actually got me mad. I'm sorry, I'm gonna read the responses now. Not the a-hole. Even without all of your reasoning, it's illegal for her to do that, period. I'm sorry that it did in fact result in damages. Hopefully you will get compensated for it. Good luck, you're totally justified in suing her. She practically murdered his pets. She has to be stupid if she didn't know how harmful that stuff is. Not the a-hole. Literally the first thing I thought was he should sue, so I was glad to read that he did. I really hope you win your case, OP. I know how hard it is to lose a pet, especially one you've had for a long time. Not the a-hole. She needs to have actual consequences, not namby-pamby, she meant well, BS that lets her get away with everything. She didn't mean well. She decided that your yard offended her sensibilities, so she was perfectly in the right to trespass and spray poison around someone else's property. Imagine if someone sprayed poison onto your dog or cat directly and killed it, and then everyone around you was like, yo, Ben, it's just a consequence of the poison on the yard. Don't worry, she meant well. She was just trying to help your yard out. You wouldn't be happy about it, that's for sure. She didn't even mean well. If she meant well, that would be something like her saying, oh, I noticed those weeds. I have some weedicide. Let me know if you'd like me to do a pass through your yard too. Or, if I noticed all those dandelions, I have a great way to get rid of them if you'd like. Offer to be a good neighbor, but accept the response you get. She didn't mean well. She wasn't doing it to be kind. She did it because she thought her neighbor's yard was an eyesore and wanted it fixed. If she really meant well, she'd apologize for what happened, not double down. I don't know how anyone in OP's life could defend this lady at all. What makes me even more mad is the edit. She doesn't even sound sorry. They were probably just sick. Like, the zero remorse is exactly why people like this need to be punished. Legit jail time. Send her to jail. 2 or 3 years, I don't care. Murder. Get her in jail. Not the a-hole. My neighbor did this last year and got reported to the HOA because the yard she sprayed, under the cover of darkness so she knew it was wrong, belongs to a family with very young children. I'm sorry about your rabbits, and you need to know that it's not your fault and you are a good owner. Guys, is this the one case where HOAs do right? Jesus. How do people internally justify this to themselves? No matter what their yard looked like, I wouldn't dream of saying boo, let alone doing something. They don't want dandelions because they are impossible to get rid of once started and the seeds blow everywhere. And those people believe the whole world should accommodate them. They are usually the same a-holes that ask you not to park on the street in front of their house because they want their guests to have a place to park. I hate people who need to have the perfect lawn. So many resources are wasted trying to keep them perfect. It's bad for the environment. I've always said that I'm just going to get some goats who can keep my lawn in a decent shape. I'm not living that mow my lawn life twice a week. Yep, my neighbor's like that. He has a perfect lawn, uses a gas mower, and frequently waters his gardens. When I bought my house, the lawn was a mess, and I can't afford to fix it right now, so it is uneven. About half of it is this clover that flowers a pretty purple flower, and I also have plenty of dandelions. I don't bother watering my garden unless I have planted something new, and all my plants do just fine. And I agree with that. I want my lawn to be like that. I don't care about maintaining it like that to perfection. I want it to look like nature. Jeez, is that wrong to think? Posted by user ThrowRA1287, titled, Am I the a-hole for emasculating my boyfriend? I, 30 female, met this guy, 28 male in January, and he became my boyfriend in February. Come March, the world goes down the drain and we decided to move in together for the time of the pandemic. Everything is great. In the morning, we have this routine where he browses Reddit and gives me highlights. A few weeks ago, he shows me a post where this guy is challenged to an arm wrestling competition by his girlfriend. The guy didn't seem to have any sort of training/workout, whereas his girlfriend did. I commented he might have a surprise. My boyfriend started educating me on biology and how men are stronger than women. I told him there was too many factors to take into consideration to make such a broad comment. I have been doing weightlifting for 2 years, and my boyfriend has never seen a gym in his life. So I used us as an example. That was a big mistake. He got really defensive and condescending, and made comments like, "That's cute." I just let it go. Fast forward to yesterday, he's playing some games with his friends online, and I can clearly hear him talk about me. Well, curiosity killed the cat. At first it's all pretty, and my ego is bursting, but then he says I'm delusional because I think I'm stronger than him. Pause. Seriously? I know I'm weak, but I'm not weaker than a girl. So later, I decide to call him out on his BS. I asked him if he wanted to come work out with me the next day, which was this morning, so he can show me how strong he is. He accepted, and I was happy, because I had been dying to bring him and initiate him to something that I'm passionate about. So this morning, we went to my friend's, 27 male, garage. My region allows up to groups of 10 or less, and we wipe everything. I told him we're going to do deadlifts. It's my favorite exercise, and I was already planning to test my personal best, so it was perfect. My friend was there because he corrects my form, and it's been our Sunday ritual since COVID-19. We started light and slowly worked our way up, doing the same number of reps as the other. Come 185, his form starts to crumble, so we made him go lighter. But 185 really isn't that much for me, so I kept stacking the plates. He looked very supportive and impressed the whole time. I ended up beating my personal best at 265. I was ecstatic and so were they. When we got in the car, he was very silent. I assumed he was just tired. I got home, and that's when he exploded and asked me if I was proud of myself. Apparently, I humiliated him in front of my friend. I apologized. I didn't realize he was feeling that way. He got angry and said it really changed the way he saw me. Like I'm less of a woman now. He stormed to the basement. I started collecting my things, but now I'm wondering if I should have been reading between the lines and stopped at 190 or something, or just dropped it and never suggested we work out together. I knew very well that I was stronger than him, but I just had to prove it to him. Am I the a-hole? Update, I still didn't get a word of him, but since some of you asked, I will make sure to update you when he does. Thank you for the overwhelming response. That was a bit of a rollercoaster day, but it made it easier to know that I'm not completely in the wrong. Lol? This is hilarious, and congrats on your personal best. You don't need a physically stronger man, but you definitely need an emotionally stronger man, because that's when your boyfriend is weak. You shouldn't have apologized for being better at something you work at than he is. That's your only error here. He wanted to talk crap and brag when he didn't deserve it. Don't ever make yourself less to placate the insecurity of anyone, not the a-hole. Better said than my draft reply, and it's sad when people try to rest on the laurels of their group, sex, race, nation, without personal development or excellence, not the a-hole. We won the Super Bowl, hey! If you need a woman to be weaker for you to feel masculine, you were never a real man anyway. Not the a-hole. Opie, get out of this relationship because your boyfriend is immature as hell. Are you really telling me a grown man got upset because his girlfriend lifted more than him? What the actual hell? I finished grabbing my stuff right after I posted this and went back to my friend's house. He doesn't want me to be alone at my apartment. I just haven't had the talk with my soon-to-be ex yet. I'm not even sure he noticed I'm gone. He was still in the basement when I left, and he gets very in the zone when he plays his games. I texted him a few minutes ago to call me when he was ready. I really don't see what he could say to make me change my mind though. Reading everyone's comments has really helped me gain some perspective. Wait, why aren't you allowed to go to your own apartment, especially after such a pathetic tantrum from him? Oh no, I'm allowed to. I'm living with my friend, the one from this morning who has a gym in his garage. My friend doesn't want me to be alone in case my ex tries something stupid. Congratulations, you made the right decision. It's so fulfilling to see someone come to their senses after posting here. So many times you just want to jump through your Reddit screen and drag people kicking and screaming from their relationships on this sub, but never really know how it turned out in the end. Finally, a happy ending. Look, personally there's not much I can say about this one that hasn't been said already. Yeah, sure, she emasculated him a little bit, but that was his choice to go over there, and he's obviously not mature enough to handle a relationship. Give him some time, make him find another woman, let him realize his mistake, and everyone will move on a better person from this, and I'm glad that she took the steps to make him her ex after that. That's disgusting behavior. So childish. Posted by user, This is a Crazed House. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my son and daughter-in-law that they can't have another kid under our roof? My eldest son and his wife got married a few years ago. Initially they moved out of the state after their wedding for my son's work. Then things went downhill. My daughter-in-law got pregnant and quit her job to be a stay-at-home mum. Shortly after the baby was born, however, my son lost his job as well. Their savings drained quickly, and it was too expensive to live in their state. My wife and I said they could live with us while they got back on their feet, on the condition that they both got jobs. This was 2 years ago, and they've lived with us ever since. Both work, and while they don't pay rent, they cover all their own expenses along with the babies. Recently, however, they told us that they were planning on having a second child. My wife and I said that if they wanted a second child, they had to move out. We love our grandchild, but we don't want another baby in the house. And to me, if they can afford another child, they can afford to move out. They said we can't tell them whether or not they can have another baby. I said they're living in our house. I absolutely can. My wife and I still have 2 other kids living at home. My other son is a single parent as well and has a child 4 who lives here full time. He has no plans of having more kids and is closer to moving out. Would have sooner, but with the shutdown it messes up his search. We can't have another kid around here. Are we being the a-holes here? Not the a-hole. If they can afford another child, they can afford to move out and pay rent and be actual adults. I really can't believe the audacity of considering bringing another life into this world when you aren't completely supporting yourself to begin with. Literally this. If they can financially afford to have another kid, they should be able to financially afford to move out. Don't let them stay in your own home forever. I guess there's not much else to say besides that. A lot of people are just going to say the same things over for this one, and I agree with that. I don't think that you should be bringing another child into this world. What's wrong with them? There's already so many people in that house. You're just going to make even more of a problem for everyone else. Sort your life out, move on, look after yourself and your own child. It's about time. You're 2 adults. You can do this. It's possible. Anyway, guys, I'm going to hand you to outro Marky. Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to tell me what you thought about it down in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, also don't forget to subscribe. It would really help out with my channel growth. And also, a huge shout out to my channel patrons and members. I just love you guys and thank you for supporting me on this journey. If you guys are new to the channel and you'd like to support me, links are down below for the Patreon, or you can click the join button next to subscribe if you'd like to become a channel member. Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.